Chapter 1659. However, Duan Lingtian did not expect this at all. He did not lie when he told Han Zhengtian that he had a friend from a quasi-third-rate force. This was because the Azure Cloud Mansion his father controlled was one of the quasi-third-rate forces in the Debussy Subterranean. The Azure Cloud Mansion was much more powerful than the Rising Sky Mansion. The two of them were not on the same level at all. Naturally, this was because Duan Lingtian did not know his father was the leader of a quasi-third-rate force. Otherwise, all he had to do was inform his father, and it would only take a word from his father to cancel the engagement between Han Xuanai and the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. When Duan Lingtian left the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate and even the Greenwave Han Mansion district, a shocking piece of news spread to the Greenwave Han Mansion from the direction of the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. It also shocked everyone in the Greenwave Han Mansion district. The Devil Seal Tablet, one of the Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking, had actually appeared. Moreover, it was in the hands of a Duan Lingtian, an eminent Saint Stage martial cultivator. For a time, the name Duan Lingtian swept through the entire Greenwave Han Mansion district along with the Devil Seal Tablet, causing everyone in the Greenwave Han Mansion district to know about this name. The legendary Devil Seal Tablet has actually appeared? That's right. It's said that it appeared in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion in the hands of an eminent Saint Stage martial cultivator. With the help of the Devil Seal Tablet, he can even kill a pristine Saint Stage Devil cultivator instantly. An eminent Saint Stage Devil cultivator instantly killed a pristine Saint Stage Devil cultivator. Looks like the legend is true. The Devil Seal Tablet does have a shocking ability to restrain devil cultivators. If I can obtain the Devil Seal Tablet, even a refined Saint Stage Devil cultivator won't be a match for me. Humph. How can a mere eminent Saint Stage guy possess the Devil Seal Tablet? If I know where he is, I'll immediately rush over to kill him and snatch the Devil Seal Tablet away. Stop dreaming. Even if I want to kill him, it won't be your turn. Similar discussions were rampant in the Greenwave Han Mansion's district. As long as one knew the meaning of the Devil Seal Tablet, there was not a single person who did not want to obtain it. A portion of people knew their place and were only watching this matter with the mentality of watching a good show. A portion of the people did not know the immensity of heaven and earth, clamoring to find Duan Lingtian and seize the demon's sealing tombstone from him. Meanwhile, more and more people began to pay attention to the eminent Saint Stage martial cultivator called Duan Lingtian. As the news continued to spread from the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion, the Greenwave Han Mansion was once again in an uproar. Duan Lingtian was a young genius martial cultivator who was not even 40 years old. With his cultivation base at the eminent Saint Stage, he managed to kill the strongest person on the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion's heaven ranking who had broken through to the Saint Stage. Then, he even used the Devil Seal Tablet's mysterious technique to deceive everyone present and successfully escaped from the scene. That Duan Lingtian is not even 40 years old? He's not even 40 years old, but he already possesses the Devil Seal Tablet. Not only that, but he's actually so strong to be able to kill a Saint Stage powerhouse with his cultivation base at the eminent Saint Stage. Moreover, his opponent was not even a devil cultivator. Although the strongest person on the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion's heaven ranking had just broken through to the Saint Stage, he's still at the Saint Stage. The difference between the Saint Stage and the non-Saint Stage is like heaven and earth. This is an ironclad rule in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, he managed to kill a Saint Stage powerhouse with his cultivation base at the imminent Saint Stage. Moreover, it was an instant kill. Unbelievable. I think he might have used a very high-grade Dao Talisman. That Dao Talisman could be combined with his true energy to form a sword technique to kill Lin Dong. That's possible. However, he's just someone from a sixth-rate Saint Nation under the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. How could he have such a high-grade Dao Talisman? Don't forget that he even has the Devil Seal Tablet. The Devil Seal Tablet is a super saint weapon that even powerhouses who have surpassed the eminent Saint Stage would covet. As time went by, some of the things that Duan Lingtian did in the Windfall Nation in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion were also dug out. At once, Duan Lingtian's name spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. In the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate, Han Zhengtian, who had heard the news that was spreading outside, could not help but feel his heart tremble even though he was already mentally prepared. Although he had believed Duan Lingtian's words before this, he was still shocked. However, when the news reached his ears from the outside world, it gave him a completely different feeling. Perhaps he'll really be able to help our Greenwave Han Mansion get through this difficult time. Han Zhengtian muttered to himself. When Han Zhengtian learned about the news that was spreading outside, naturally, Han Xuanai had also heard about it. When she heard about it, she was very disappointed. It had been quite some time since Duan Lingtian left. She was in a bad mood because of his departure, but she had already recovered a little during this period of time. Now that the news about Duan Lingtian had spread, she could not help but be reminded of her brother Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, you must come back to see me before I get married. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to see you again in the future. At some point in time, tears welled up in Han Xuanai's eyes. She had long heard about the reputation of the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. She knew that he was a complete good-for-nothing rich kid. Apart from being a womanizer, he was also extremely domineering and possessive. Usually, he would use a method close to house arrest to prevent his wives and concubines from leaving his mansion, let alone the Rising Sky Mansion's estate. Due to this reason, once she got married, she might not be able to leave. If she could not leave, naturally, she would not be able to see her brother Lingtian. At this moment, Han Xuanai did not know that her brother Lingtian had already entered the district around the Rising Sky Mansion and was about to enter the Rising Sky Mansion soon. As a fourth-rate force in the WCI subterranean, the Rising Sky Mansion was so powerful that it was only inferior to a few quasi-third-rate forces. Although such a force did not deliberately expand its territory, those fifth-rate forces would sensibly offer a large amount of Saint Stones every 10 years to curry favor with it in a large area with it as the center. Due to this reason, with the Rising Sky Mansion as the center, the vast area surrounding the three fifth-rate forces was known as the Rising Sky Mansion District. Of course, the Greenwave Han Mansion was not in the Rising Sky Mansion District. The district where the Greenwave Han Mansion was located was the district of another fourth-rate force. However, although the Greenwave Han Mansion would also pay tribute to the fourth-rated force with Saint Stones every 10 years, the fourth-rated force would not care about the life and death of the Greenwave Han Mansion. The only thing it could do was to not touch the Greenwave Han Mansion. As for whether the Greenwave Han Mansion would be annihilated or not, it did not care at all. If one Greenwave Han Mansion fell, naturally, another Greenwave Han Mansion would rise. This was a world where the strong were revered. This was how cruel and realistic it was. The Rising Sky Mansion District is right in front. Duan Lingtian, who was flying on his flying sword, muttered to himself as he glanced at the mountain range in front of him. After the mountain range, it was the Rising Sky Mansion District. The Rising Sky Mansion District was adjacent to the district of the fourth-rate force above the Greenwave Han Mansion. However, the district where Duan Lingtian was currently located did not belong to the Greenwave Han Mansion. Instead, it belonged to another fifth-rate force. Chapter 1660. Rising Sky Mansion. Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave as soon as he entered the Rising Sky Mansion's district on his flying sword. Due to the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he did not have a good impression of the Rising Sky Mansion. If he was strong enough, he would have charged into the Rising Sky Mansion and wreaked havoc before killing the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion in front of everyone in the Rising Sky Mansion. Strength. Let alone the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, I'm still too weak even in the WCI subterranean. Duan Lingtian sighed helplessly. With his current cultivation base, even if he stabilized his Sun True Origin and used the Jasper Celestial Sword, he would only be able to kill a powerhouse at the peak of the refined Saint stage at most. He would not be a match for an eminent Saint stage powerhouse even if he used the Jasper Celestial Sword. As a fourth-rate force, not only did the Rising Sky Mansion have eminent Saint stage powerhouses, but they even had powerhouses who had surpassed the eminent Saint stage. Currently, even if he charged into the Rising Sky Mansion with the Jasper Celestial Sword in his hand, he would be killed before he could even kill a few people. After entering the Rising Sky Mansions district, Duan Ling Tian inquired about some matters related to the Rising Sky ranking battle. Then he found a quiet and remote valley and dug a concealed cave before he stayed there. Naturally, he stayed in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. As for him, he entered the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After asking around, he found out that although the Rising Sky ranking battle would only officially begin a year later, it had been the hottest topic in the Rising Sky Mansions district since 6 months ago. The Rising Sky ranking would change its ranking every 50 years. It was a great honor to be able to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. As long as one could be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking, no matter how mediocre one was, from the moment one was ranked in the Rising Sky Mansions district, it was destined that one's name would spread throughout the Rising Sky Mansions district. Even the few fourth-rate forces around the Rising Sky Mansion would be talking about one's name. Due to this reason, the Rising Sky ranking was a great way for a grassroots to rise up. Not only that, but as long as you're able to enter the Rising Sky ranking and prove your strength, you'll also be invited by the Rising Sky Mansion. As long as you were willing, you could join the Rising Sky Mansion and become a genius disciple there. You could even be nurtured by the Rising Sky Mansion and soar into the sky. In the history of the Rising Sky Mansion, most of the powerhouses who came out of the Rising Sky Mansion were once ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. For this reason, the Rising Sky ranking was the most sacred ranking in the Rising Sky Mansions district. Although there was still more than a year before the Rising Sky ranking battle began, there was already a wave of anticipation in the Rising Sky Mansions district for the Rising Sky ranking battle. I can't believe the people in the Rising Sky Mansions district value the Rising Sky ranking so much. No wonder the Rising Sky Mansions set up a rule that only disciples who have entered the Rising Sky ranking are qualified to become the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion. The Rising Sky rankings is undoubtedly the best touchstone, and only by successfully passing the test of this touchstone can one be considered a qualified genius. Duan Ling Tian sighed inwardly. On the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. His mind was completely immersed in his cultivation. At some point in time, his body was suddenly emitting a golden glow. As time passed by, the golden brilliance grew brighter and brighter. It was as though it had transformed into a blazing sun that was hovering low in the sky. The reason it had such an effect was because Duan Ling Tian had activated the Sun True Origin in his body. Once the Sun True Origin was released, it would display some characteristics that only the blazing sun had. While Duan Ling Tian was consolidating his cultivation base at the early Pristine Saint stage and the Sun True Origin in his body, in the distant Azure Cloud Mansion, Duan Ruffing had also received news about Duan Ling Tian. Devil Seal Tablet? After learning that his son had obtained the Devil Seal Tablet, even Duan Ruffing could not help but narrow his eyes. He was very familiar with the Devil Seal Tablet. Moreover, the reason he had never returned and was separated from his wife and son was all because of the Devil Seal Tablet and the powerful soul sealed in the Devil Seal Tablet. The owner of the powerful soul was an extremely terrifying devil cultivator. It was also because of him that Duan Ruffing was who he was today. However, Duan Ruffing did not feel grateful to him at all. There was only resentment because the other party had always wanted to possess his body. If it was not for his strong will, his body would have long been snatched away by the other party. In this case, Tian was the one who caused He Ming's main soul to be destroyed? Duan Ruffing's eyes lit up immediately. He was completely unaware of this. Although he knew where the Devil Seal Tablet was, he did not dare to go near the Devil Seal Tablet if he was not confident since he was a devil cultivator. Who knew if the Devil Seal Tablet would suppress him or not? He knew very well how powerful He Ming who wanted to possess his body was. It was only a part of He Ming's soul that made him who he was today. If it was not a part of He Ming's soul that escaped but his main soul, at that time, my soul would have been destroyed by him and my body would have become his. When he thought of this, Duan Ruffing felt a little relieved. In the past, it was because He Ming's main soul was still suppressed by the Devil Seal Tablet that he was able to survive and achieve what he had today. At that time, when He Ming's main soul was destroyed, It affected the part of his soul and allowed him to completely regain control of his body. At that time, he knew that something had happened to the Devil Seal tablet. It was very likely that someone had touched the Devil Seal tablet and activated the tablet's power to completely suppress and kill He Ming before his main soul could attack him. However, he did not expect that person to be his son, Duan Ling Tian. That black nether strength was incomparably powerful, and his main soul was naturally extremely domineering. Back then, I was curious about who could block Black Nether's main soul and even use the Devil Seal tablet to suppress and kill Black Nether's main soul. My son, Duan Ruffing sighed in his heart. It could be said that whoever obtained the Devil Seal tablet would be the one who saved him. Otherwise, he might still be fighting with He Ming's soul for control of his body. It would be impossible for him to return to Cloud Continent and reunite with his wife and son. He had always been curious about who his benefactor was, but he did not expect it to be his son. However, Tian's current situation is a little troublesome. When he thought of his son's current situation, Duan Ruffin could not help but frown. It won't be long before the entire Debussy subterranean wants to find Tian and seize the Devil Seal tablet in his hands. When he found out that his son had obtained the Devil Seal tablet, Duan Ruffing also knew that his son was targeted by various powerhouses. Chapter 1661. As a fourth-rate force in the Dao Marshal Saint Land, the Rising Sky Mansion's estate was much bigger than the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate. If the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate was like a small country, the Rising Sky Mansion's estate was like a huge country. In that case, the Rising Sky Mansion's estate was more like a big country that stretched as far as the eye could see. However, silhouettes could be seen everywhere, causing the entire Rising Sky Mansion's estate to be bustling with life. Meanwhile, in this Rising Sky Mansion that was brimming with vitality and blooming flowers, an extremely discordant scene was happening in an inconspicuous mansion. The slightly dilapidated mansion was filled with spider webs. It looked as though no one had been here for a long time. However, if one looked closely, one would notice that there were no traces of spider webs on the east side of the mansion at all. It was as though someone had purposely opened up a path that led directly to the door of the master bedroom of the mansion. At the door of the master bedroom stood a young man like a door god. This young man's back was slightly hunched, and he looked like a rat. With just one look, one could tell he was not a good person. No. At this moment, a weak cry resonated from the master bedroom. Based on the cry alone, one could tell it was a woman. After a while, the woman's cry stopped abruptly as though it had never appeared before. Get rid of her! As soon as the woman's cry disappeared, a deep voice resonated from inside again. The moment the voice resonated, it jolted the hunchbacked young man. He immediately turned around, opened the door, and walked into the master bedroom. There was a withered corpse lying on the floor of the master bedroom. If one looked closely, one could vaguely tell it was a woman's dried corpse. Steam was still rising from the dried corpse. It was obvious she had just died not long ago. Behind the dried corpse was a bed. A young man with a wicked expression was sitting cross-legged on the bed. Wisps of black mist that was mixed with blood were rising from his body. As time passed, the mist was absorbed into his body. At the same time, one could see the wicked young man's face was flushed red. It was as though the black mist that was mixed with blood was a great supplement to him. At this moment, the young man opened his eyes. His gaze was as sharp as lightning as he stared at the hunchbacked young man who walked in. Young mansion master. The hunchbacked young man was so frightened that his face turned pale when he was stared at by the wicked young man. His body trembled before he fell to the ground. I'm sorry, young mansion master. I didn't mean to. Seeing the strange young man frown, the hunchbacked young man got up from the ground in a panic. As he crawled, he extended his hand to grab the dried corpse. After lifting the dried corpse, he hurriedly left the room and closed the door behind him. It was as if the nefarious youth was some kind of scourge. After the hunchbacked young man left, the mischievous young man finally relaxed his frown. At the same time, he muttered to himself, in the next 10 months, as long as I can get enough young women, with the help of the devouring dark devil technique, I'll be able to break through to the mastery refined saint stage at the very least before the rising sky ranking battle begins. If there are enough virgins among those young women, it's not impossible for them to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage when the rising sky ranking starts. As he muttered to this point, the young man's eyes shone brightly like the bright stars in the night sky. 10 months later, the first place of the rising sky ranking is destined to be mine. The eyes of the evil-looking young man grew increasingly brighter. At the same time, the words that he spoke were filled with confidence, incomparable confidence. Su Jing. This young man with a wicked expression was none other than the son of the current mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. He was also the person who was going to marry the eldest miss of Greenwave Han Mansion, Han Xuanai. However, based on his words earlier, it seemed like he had cultivated the devil technique, the devouring dark devil technique. There were many devil cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land, and there were many devil cultivation methods as well. Perhaps, nobody had heard of ordinary devil techniques. However, when it came to the devouring dark devil technique, almost all martial and Dao cultivators who were slightly knowledgeable would know about it. Although the devouring dark devil technique was not widely known, everyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land knew about it because it had once created a powerful devil cultivator. Many years ago, after a martial cultivator with an ordinary aptitude cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, his strength skyrocketed. It only took him a few decades to transform from a mortal shedding stage martial cultivator from a 9th-rate force to a peerless powerhouse who could annihilate a 4th-rate force. It shocked the entire WCI subterranean. If it was only his later achievements, he was worthy of praise from everyone in the WCI subterranean. However, after some investigation, it was discovered that he had cultivated a devil cultivation method called the devouring dark devil technique that allowed him to raise his strength to such a level in such a short time. Once one cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, they would have to devour the vital essence and blood of young women every once in a while. If they did not do so, they would suffer a backlash. If there was a large amount of vital essence and blood from young women, the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique would be able to raise his cultivation base rapidly in a short time. For this kind of devil cultivator, there were no bottlenecks on the path of martial arts. As long as there was enough qi and blood from young women, his cultivation could rise to an extremely exaggerated level in a short period of time, to an unbelievable extent. Moreover, there was no limit to one's innate talent in the martial Dao. Ever since the cultivation method of the devouring dark devil technique was exposed, it set off a huge uproar in the WCI subterranean. Countless martial and Dao cultivators were terrified, and at the same time, many powerhouses were enraged. These powerhouses included some of the top powerhouses from quasi-third-rate forces. In the end, the top powerhouses from quasi-third-rate forces and some of the hidden powerhouses from the WCI subterranean publicly stood up and tried to surround the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. They intended to attack and kill him together. That battle was so intense that even the sun and moon seemed to dim in the face of it. The top powerhouses from the WCI subterranean joined forces and paid the price of 3 of their lives to severely injure the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. However, they did not manage to kill him. This was because there was an escape secret tactic in the devouring dark devil technique that required a huge price to pay and successfully saved his life. In the end, the devil cultivator who had escaped had vanished without a trace in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, never to appear again. Many people said that he must have gone to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Chapter 1662. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were many devil techniques that could be cultivated by devouring blood essence. However, the improvement was not that great. Moreover, there were many other requirements. For example, there was the mystical dark devil technique that only differed from the devouring dark devil technique by one word. The mystical dark devil technique was a devil technique that was widely spread in the Dao Martial Saint Land. As long as the devil cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land were willing, they would have a chance to obtain it. The mystical dark devil technique was usually cultivated by devouring the blood essence of a virgin. However, the improvement was not as great as the devouring dark devil technique. Moreover, if the woman was not a virgin, no matter how young she was, it would be useless to devour her blood essence. Let alone the Debussyi subterranean, the devouring dark devil technique was a top-notch devil technique even in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was able to obtain the devouring dark devil technique because of a fortuitous encounter 3 years ago. At that time, he had accidentally entered a place and obtained the devouring dark devil technique. Moreover, he found out that the person who left the devouring dark devil technique behind was the powerful devil cultivator back then. Others might not know much about the powerful devil cultivator back then, but as the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he knew a lot about him. This was because one of the top powerhouses from the quasi-third-rate force who had participated in the annihilation of the devil cultivator was from the Rising Sky Mansion. At that time, the Rising Sky Mansion was not a fourth-rate force, but a quasi-third-rate force. The reason the Rising Sky Mansion could become a quasi-third-rate force was due to the existence of that powerhouse. Unfortunately, that powerhouse from the Rising Sky Mansion had unfortunately died in that battle. Due to that, the Rising Sky Mansion had lost a top powerhouse from the Debussyi subterranean. In the beginning, due to their respect for the Rising Sky Mansion's powerhouse's contribution to the Debussyi subterranean, many people knew the Rising Sky Mansion was no longer qualified to be a quasi-third-rate force after losing that powerhouse. However, none of the forces had any opinion about it. However, as time passed, a few generations of people were replaced. At that time, the Rising Sky Mansion's powerhouse's contribution to the Debussyi subterranean gradually faded away. Not many people in the future cared about him anymore. At that time, those top powerhouses and old men had also gone to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land one after another. This caused the Rising Sky Mansion that had not produced a top powerhouse from the Debussyi subterranean for several generations to fall into a precarious situation. Finally, one day, a fourth-rate force that had given birth to a top powerhouse from the Debussyi subterranean invaded the Rising Sky Mansion, intending to replace the Rising Sky Mansion and become a quasi-third-rate force. All of the Rising Sky Mansion's powerhouses had made their move, but none of them was a match for the powerhouse from that force. For a time, the Rising Sky Mansion had no choice but to admit defeat and obediently hand over one of the best Saint Stone reserves in the Debussyi subterranean. Then, it moved to the original estate of that force and had been passed down ever since. Every generation of mansion masters of the Rising Sky Mansion had the same dream, and that was to restore the glory of the Rising Sky Mansion. Unfortunately, a long time had passed. Although the Rising Sky Mansion was able to maintain its current position, due to the fact that no top powerhouse from the Debussyi subterranean was born, it was naturally unable to become a quasi-third-rate force again. When I become the mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion, I'll definitely make it the most powerful force in the Debussyi subterranean. Su Jing's eyes gleamed brightly as he muttered to himself. The reason he dared to say so was because he had the devouring dark devil technique in his hands. The devouring dark devil technique was undoubtedly a taboo in the Rising Sky Mansion. Under normal circumstances, as the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion, the first thing Su Jing would do after obtaining the devouring dark devil technique was to hand it over to the Rising Sky Mansion so that they could destroy it. After all, the person who had destroyed the Rising Sky Mansion was the owner of this devil technique. However, due to his greed for the power of the devouring dark devil technique, Su Jing had made up his mind and kept it. In the beginning, although he had kept the devouring dark devil technique, he did not cultivate it because he could not make up his mind. It was not until a few months ago that a piece of news spread out in the Rising Sky Mansion's district that he finally made up his mind. To others, this piece of news did not mean much. Even if Su Jing, who did not obtain the devouring dark devil technique previously, was dissatisfied, he would not think too much about it. However, to Su Jing, who had already obtained the devouring dark devil technique, this piece of news was undoubtedly a huge blow. Our young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion should be able to enter the top 3 of the Rising Sky ranking and be ranked 3rd. I think so too. After all, in our Rising Sky Mansion, the strongest martial and Dao cultivators below the age of 50 are the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi. It's hard to say who's stronger, but both of them are much stronger than the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion. I agree that the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion is not as strong as the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi. However, I don't think it's possible for him to be ranked 3rd in the Rising Sky ranking. In fact, apart from the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi, among the powerhouses below the age of 50 in our Rising Sky Mansions district, there's another person who's very strong. Are you talking about Zhonggu? That's him. In fact, when our young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion was still at the peak of the pristine saint stage, Zhonggu was already stronger than him. However, he broke through to the refined saint stage first. For this reason, in the eyes of others, he's stronger than Zhonggu, who has yet to break through to the refined saint stage. However, I've received news that Zhonggu has also broken through. Zhonggu has broken through? In that case, he might really be a threat to young mansion master Su. This news was the reason why Su Jing was so determined to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique. Although he was the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion, one had to admit that he was very unlucky. In the same era, there were 2 people with higher innate talent than him in the Rising Sky Mansions district. They were the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi. When the 3 of them were not even 40 years old, they were already in the top 3 of the heaven ranking in the Rising Sky Mansions district. The Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi's rankings had changed many times, but they still occupied the 1st and 2nd places. Su Jing could only settle for the 3rd place. It was not that he did not think about advancing further, but he was not a match for the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi at all. He had challenged them many times, but he had been defeated many times. As for Zhonggu, although he was about the same age as them, he did not challenge anyone on the heaven ranking before he was 40 years old. Due to this reason, he was unknown. It was only until a few years later that Su Jing, the Flowery Monk, and Jing Suzi had faded out of the heaven ranking due to their age that Su Jing and Zhonggu had a conflict. At that time, both of them were at the peak of the pristine saint stage, but when they really fought, Su Jing was slightly inferior, and Zhonggu defeated him by a narrow margin. At that time, apart from the Flowery Monk and Jing Suzi, there was also Zhonggu who stood above Su Jing. It was only when he had broken through to the refined saint stage that Zhonggu finally disappeared. However, when the news came, Zhonggu, this mountain, once again appeared above him. When the 3 mountains joined together, they pressured him so much that he could barely breathe. At this moment, he recalled the devouring dark devil technique and how powerful the original owner of the devouring dark devil technique was. Ever since then, he had stepped into a quagmire and could not get out of it. In the end, he could not resist the temptation of the devouring dark devil technique and decided to cultivate it. Naturally, if he wanted to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique, he would have to sacrifice a large number of young women. Due to this reason, he and his lackey, the hunchbacked young man, began to roam around looking for young women to capture and bring to this place for him to cultivate. After he cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, he could feel the changes in his cultivation base every time he devoured the vital blood and vital essence of young women. After he tasted the sweetness, he could not stop himself. Naturally, due to the irreconcilable enmity between the Rising Sky Mansion and the original owner of the devouring dark devil technique, he did not dare to expose the fact that he had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. If this was exposed, those old fogies in the Rising Sky Mansion would definitely not let him inherit the position of the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Not only would they not let him inherit the position, but they might even kill him who had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. After all, he was currently the direct disciple of the original owner of the devouring dark devil technique. How could the Rising Sky Mansion let go of the direct disciple of their enemy? If I rely on the Rising Sky Mansion's resources, I might not even be able to break through to the intermediate refined saint stage when the Rising Sky ranking battle comes in 10 months. Even if I manage to break through, I'll only be stronger than Zhonggu at most. I won't be able to defeat the flowery monk and Jing Suzi at all, Su Jing muttered to himself. However, after I cultivate the devouring dark devil technique, I'll definitely be able to break through to the mastery refined saint stage. It's not impossible for me to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage. As long as I have enough virgins, I'll be able to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage in 10 months. Young mansion master, it's done. At this moment, a voice resonated from outside the door. It was the hunchbacked young man who had returned. As Su Jing left the bed like a gust of wind, the door opened and he appeared in front of the hunchbacked young man, giving him a fright. Come with me. We'll come back when the rising sky ranking battle is about to begin, Su Jing said indifferently. The hunchbacked young man nodded. Young mansion master, you're planning to cultivate outside? The hunchbacked young man's eyes lit up as he felt excited. He could not help but feel excited. As long as the young mansion master went out to cultivate, he would not have to worry about being discovered when he abducted so many young women to the Rising Sky Mansion. If the fact that the young mansion master cultivated the devouring dark devil technique was exposed, not only would the young mansion master be in trouble, but he, the accomplice, would not be able to escape death as well. Yes. Su Jing nodded nonchalantly and left with the hunchbacked young man to cultivate outside. The reason why Su Jing had chosen to cultivate outside was because it would be more convenient for him to find a virgin. His current goal was to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage when the Rising Sky ranking battle began in 10 months' time. Chapter 1663. Not long after he left the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, also heard a piece of shocking news about the Devil Seal Tablet and Duan Lingtian. The Devil Seal Tablet is one of the 10 great Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking. It's also the only Super Saint weapon among the 10 great Super Saint weapons that can restrain devil cultivators. Why would the Devil Seal Tablet appear in the Debussy Subterranean? Su Jing frowned. His expression was slightly grave. If it was in the past, when he hadn't cultivated the devouring dark devil technique and learned of the Devil Seal Tombstone's existence, his heart would only be filled with greed and no other emotions. However, now that he had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique and had become a devil cultivator, he was terrified of the Devil Seal Tablet from the bottom of his heart. Even if I've broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, I'm still no match for an early pristine saint stage martial or Dao cultivator who possesses the Devil Seal Tablet. Su Jing muttered to himself. His expression turned grave. Young mansion master, the Devil Seal Tablet is in the hands of a saint rudiment stage martial cultivator. It's not a threat to you. Moreover, there's only one Devil Seal Tablet in the entire Dao martial saint land. Those who possess the Devil Seal Tablet might not necessarily be your enemy, and they might not necessarily become your enemy. The hunchbacked young man stood behind Su Jing. When he heard Su Jing's muttering, he could guess what Su Jing was thinking and quickly comforted him. Upon hearing the hunchbacked young man's words, Su Jing's eyes lit up immediately. That's right. You're right. Let alone the fact that the Devil Seal Tablet is in the hands of a Saint Rudiment Stage martial cultivator, even if it's in the hands of a pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator, he might not necessarily be my enemy and might not even attack me. As the saying went, those who are closely involved cannot see clearly. After the hunchbacked young man's reminder, Su Jing finally came to a realization and felt much better. However, that Saint Rudiment Stage martial cultivator called Duan Lingtian is really lucky to be able to obtain a super saint weapon like the Devil Seal Tablet. The hunchbacked young man had an envious expression on his face. Humph. So what if he has the Devil Seal Tablet? It won't be long before the entire Dao martial saint land knows he has the Devil Seal Tablet. He'll either hide or be killed. Even if he's not killed, he won't dare to use it easily. Su Jing snorted. However, there was a hint of jealousy in his tone. The fortuitous encounter of the Saint Rudiment Stage martial cultivator named Duan Lingtian made him envious to a certain extent. At this moment, it did not cross Su Jing's mind that the owner of the Devil Seal Tablet, Duan Lingtian, whom he thought might not necessarily be his enemy, had actually come to the Rising Sky Mansion's district for him. Not only that, but he even planned to kill him in one fell swoop during the Rising Sky ranking battle that would be held 10 months later. While Su Jing and his lackeys were wantonly searching for young girls, especially virgins, Duan Lingtian was also working extremely hard in his cultivation. As time passed, the Sun True essence in his body had completely stabilized. Now, he could control it with ease. However, Duan Lingtian did not stop cultivating because of this. He continued to cultivate and further consolidate his early pristine saint stage cultivation base. His current goal was to successfully break through to the intermediate pristine saint stage or even the mastery pristine saint stage before the Rising Sky ranking battle began. During the Rising Sky ranking battle, killing Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was a promise he made to Han Xuanai's father, Han Zhengtian, the mansion master of Green Wave Han Mansion. No matter what, he had to fulfill his promise no matter how difficult it was. If I use the Jasper Celestial Sword, I'll be able to instantly kill Su Jing with my current cultivation base. Unfortunately, the Rising Sky ranking battle doesn't allow the use of saint weapons and other external forces. Without the Jasper Celestial Sword, I'll have to raise my cultivation base as high as possible if I want to defeat him. Duan Lingtian did not know when, but an obsession had arisen in his heart. It was an obsession to raise his cultivation base. Obsession was sometimes a bad thing and sometimes a good thing. At the very least, to the current Duan Lingtian, obsession was his motivation. Just for the sake of Han Xuanai, whom he treated as his biological sister, he had to fulfill his promise to Han Zhengtian. That was a man's promise. Even if the journey was difficult, even if he had to crawl his way up, he would still fulfill his promise. While Duan Lingtian was preparing for the Rising Sky ranking battle, in the faraway Azure Cloud Mansion, Duan Rufeng still could not calm down. The benefactor he had guessed countless times turned out to be his son. Even Duan Rufeng, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, was taken aback. However, when he thought about his son's current situation, his heart was filled with worry. He wished he could immediately send someone to look for Duan Lingtian and bring him back to the Azure Cloud Mansion. Only then would he be able to feel at ease. However, whenever this thought appeared in his mind, the Oracle Man's figure would flash before his eyes. According to the Oracle Man, he should not interfere with his son, Duan Lingtian's growth. Once he did, it might cause an unpredictable impact on his son's future. He was completely convinced by the Oracle Man, so he had never doubted the Oracle Man's words. This included this time. If it was not for the fact that he recalled the words between the Oracle Man and the Oracle Man, he would have long ordered someone to look for his son. Tian, I hope you'll be able to get through this. I'm still waiting for you to defeat the five-clawed golden dragon, Diju, and enter the dragon's saint land, the dragon cleansing pool. Duan Rufeng muttered to himself. At the same time, a worried expression could be seen on his face. In this world, it was not only the mother who was worried about her son traveling thousands of miles, but it was the same for the father as well. For this reason, Duan Rufeng did not plan to tell his wife, Li Ro, about this matter. He knew Li Ro would not be able to take it if she found out. Li Ro's mental endurance was far inferior to his. It was not only Li Ro who did not say anything, but it was the same for Li Fei as well. Not only that, but he had even secretly ordered them to seal off any news about the Devil Seal tablet and Duan Lingtian in the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate so Li Ro, Li Fei, and the others would not know about it. There were some things that were better left unknown. It might not be a good thing if they found out. However, even if the Azure Cloud Mansion did not make a move, it did not mean the Mountain Shade Black Market would not make a move as well. As the orders were sent out from the Mountain Shade Black Market's headquarters, the branches of the Mountain Shade Black Market in various places in the Debussy subterranean also began to take action. The Mountain Shade Black Market spared no effort in searching for Duan Lingtian's whereabouts. Chapter 1664. The Mountain Shade Black Market had made a big move. Although they had purposely blocked the news, it still spread to the Azure Cloud Mansion. What's that Dugu trying to do? Duan Rufeng's expression turned grave as his eyes gleamed coldly. At this moment, Duan Rufeng also found out that the leader of the Mountain Shade Black Market, Dugu, had been watching his son even before the devil seal tablet in his hand was exposed. That Dugu actually knows who my son is and even has a portrait of him. Where did he get it from? Duan Rufeng was puzzled by this. However, as a thought flashed in Duan Rufeng's mind, it was easy for him to guess that this matter had something to do with the dragons. After all, he had gone to the dragons because of his son. He even has a portrait of my son. It seems like it's the five-clawed golden dragon, Diju, who's behind this. Soon after, Duan Rufeng found his target. After that, his expression turned extremely grave. He did not expect Diju to be so crazy. He had already agreed to the 5-year agreement with his son, Duan Lingtian, but he still dared to play tricks behind the scenes. However, although he was certain Diju was behind this, he did not have any evidence. For this reason, although he was furious, he did not go to the dragons to settle the score with Diju. Diju had thousands of reasons to say that this matter had nothing to do with him. After learning that the Mountain Shade black market had made such a big move, Duan Rufeng became even more worried about his son's safety and became even more agitated. However, when he recalled the Oracle man's stern words, he still endured it. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of Duan Rufeng's concern. He did not even know that his father was the mansion master of the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion, in the Debussy subterranean. At the same time, Feng Tianwu, who had just entered the Greenwave Han Mansion's district, could not help but worry about Duan Lingtian's safety when she heard the news that was spreading around. I hope elder brother Duan is safe. Elder brother Duan, where are you now? However, after arriving at the Greenwave Han Mansion's district, Feng Tianwu did not leave in a hurry. A month later, she arrived at the Greenwave city and found out about Han Xuanai's identity. Although she had never seen Han Xuanai before, she had heard of Han Xuanai's name, her elder brother Duan, more than once, and had a rough idea of what kind of person Han Xuanai was. In the eyes of her elder brother Duan, Han Xuanai had an extraordinary origin and a mysterious identity. Feng Tianwu had heard of Han Xuanai from Duan Lingtian. Similarly, Han Xuanai had also heard of Feng Tianwu from her elder brother Lingtian. Therefore, although both of them had never seen each other before, they had long known of each other's existence. It was precisely because of this that when Feng Tianwu announced her identity and asked someone to inform Han Xuanai quickly asked someone to invite Feng Tianwu into the Greenwave Han Mansion and into her mansion. Your sister Tianwu? I used to hear elder brother Ling Tian mention you a lot. Han Xuanai was very enthusiastic in front of Feng Tianwu. Xuanai, I also used to hear elder brother Duan mention you a lot. Feng Tianwu responded with a smile. However, she soon got to the point as she asked, Xuanai, did your elder brother Ling Tian come to look for you? Elder brother Ling Tian came to look for Sister Fei. Han Xuanai sighed. However, Sister Fei was taken away by someone some time ago. As for elder brother Ling Tian, he also left after staying in our Greenwave Han Mansion for a month. However, I believe he'll come back to see me before that. He definitely will. When Han Xuanai reached the end of her sentence, she was almost mumbling to herself. After learning that Duan Lingtian had come to the Greenwave Han Mansion, Feng Tianwu's eyes lit up. However, when she heard that Duan Lingtian had only stayed in the Greenwave Han Mansion for a month before leaving, she felt a little disappointed again. This was because this would mean that she would not be able to see her elder brother Duan again. Xuanai, did elder brother Duan say where he went? Feng Tianwu looked at Han Xuanai as her eyes shone brightly as she asked bluntly. He didn't say. Han Xuanai smiled wryly. Upon seeing this, Feng Tianwu was greatly disappointed. However, the clues regarding Duan Lingtian's whereabouts were completely broken at this point. For a moment, Feng Tianwu had a feeling of not knowing where to go, and she felt powerless. Under Han Xuanai's invitation, Feng Tianwu temporarily stayed in her mansion in the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate. As for the news of another outsider coming to Han Xuanai's mansion after a few months, it quickly reached the ears of the Greenwave Han Mansion's supreme elder, Han Exin. However, since Feng Tianwu was a woman, he did not pay much attention to it. Time passed by quietly like water through the gaps of one's fingers. In the Rising Sky Mansion's district, The discussion about the Rising Sky ranking had reached its peak as time passed by. 1 month before the Rising Sky ranking battle began, the discussion reached its peak. The entire Rising Sky Mansions district was filled with people discussing the Rising Sky ranking. In the following period of time, the hottest topic in the Rising Sky Mansions district was undoubtedly the Rising Sky ranking. A month's time was neither too long nor too short. During this 1 month's time, the place where the Rising Sky ranking battle was going to be held was a vast canyon called the Nimble Canyon. It was bustling with people and was extremely lively. The Rising Sky ranking battle was a grand event in the Rising Sky Mansions district. There was still a month's time before it began, but a group of people had already arrived, waiting for the Rising Sky ranking battle to begin. During this period of time, many martial and Dao cultivators who met the requirements from all over the Rising Sky Mansions district had also arrived. In the vast Nimble Canyon, martial and Dao cultivators could be seen sitting cross-legged as they cultivated. Some of them even sat cross-legged in the air as they cultivated. One could vaguely see the true origins circulating around their bodies. It seemed like Saint Stage powerhouses were worthless here. The people from the Rising Sky Mansion are here. When there were still 3 days before the Rising Sky ranking battle began, someone suddenly shouted and attracted many people's attention. When the crowd lifted their heads to look, they saw a group of people with extraordinary auras led by an old man had entered the Nimble Canyon. Moreover, they domineeringly occupied a corner of the Nimble Canyon, causing the martial and Dao cultivators who were cultivating there to make way for them. In the Rising Sky Mansions district, the Rising Sky Mansion was an absolute overlord. Nobody dared to provoke them. Due to this reason, although they were enraged by the overbearing attitude of the people from the Rising Sky Mansion, they did not dare to show it. That old man seems to be the 9th elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. That's right. He's the 9th elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. I've seen him before. It seems like he and the people behind him are just the Rising Sky Mansion's vanguard this time. The young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion and the others haven't arrived yet. The flowery monk and Jing Su-zi haven't arrived yet either. There are still 3 days to go. There's no hurry. Chapter 1665. In the last 3 days, more and more people came to the Nimble Valley one after another. These people were either from the 5th rate, 6th rate, or 7th rate forces in the Rising Sky Mansions district. As for the people from the 8th rate and 9th rate forces, nobody knew who they were even if they came. Moreover, most of these people did not even dare to come. The battle between Saint Stage powerhouses not only caused a huge commotion, but the aftershock was also extremely shocking. If one's cultivation base was not high enough and did not hide at a safe distance, one would most likely be affected. If it was light, one would be injured. If it was heavy, one would die. There were a total of 3 5th-rate forces in the Rising Sky Mansion. The Flowery Monk and Jing Su-zi were from 2 of the forces. The Flowery Monk was a disciple of the 5th-rate force, the Brahma Temple. As for Jing Su-zi, he was a disciple of the 5th-rate force, the Pure Yang Shrine. These 2 people were also known as the most outstanding young geniuses among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansions district. Even the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion was suppressed by them. However, although many people from the Brahma Temple and the Pure Yang Shrine had come, the people present did not see the Flowery Monk and Jing Su-zi at all. It seems like the people from the Brahma Temple and the Pure Yang Shrine are also here to take the lead and occupy a good spot for the people who will come later. After all, the Rising Sky ranking battle will not last for just 1 day. The people from the various forces will need a place to rest. Apart from the 9th elder of the Rising Sky Mansion who brought his people to occupy the best spot, the Brahma Temple, the Pure Yang Shrine, and another 5th-rate force also occupied 3 good spots. Those who were chased away did not dare to say anything even though they were angry. In this world where the strong were revered, the one with the bigger fist was the law. 2 days had passed, and the Rising Sky ranking battle would begin tomorrow. Due to this reason, the number of people who came gradually decreased. However, the people who came now were much more important compared to the people who came earlier. It's the Flowery Monk and the people from the Brahma Temple. Nobody knew who cried out. His voice spread out. In the beginning, it only attracted the attention of the people around him. After all, the Nimble Valley was not small. Even if his voice was not soft, it still could not spread out in the entire Nimble Valley. However, as he and the people around him stared into the distance, the others also noticed the abnormality and followed their gazes. He saw a group of people coming from afar. The leader was a bald old man in a golden kasaya. He had a pair of white eyebrows and a long white goatee on his chin. He walked slowly in the air, showing a different temperament, giving people an unfathomable feeling. It's the abbot of Brahma Temple, Great Master Hui Si. Soon, someone recognized the old monk and exclaimed in a low voice. The abbot of the Brahma Temple was also the leader of the Brahma Temple. He was a supreme existence in the Brahma Temple. And behind the abbot of Brahma Temple were 4 people. 3 of them were old monks. They wore silver kasayas and each of them looked old. They gave off an otherworldly feeling and were clearly not ordinary old monks. Standing beside the 3 old monks in silver cassocks was a young monk in a red cassock. His appearance was average, and he was the kind of person who would not stand out in a crowd. However, the fact that he was able to stand beside the 3 old monks in silver cassocks, who clearly had extraordinary statuses, was enough to show that he was not simple. This young monk was none other than the strongest person among the middle-aged generation in the Brahma Temple, the flowery monk. The reason he was called the flowery monk was that he liked to womanize and did not abide by the Brahma Temple's rules at all. Of course, although he liked to womanize, he never forced women. He would only touch those women who were dead set on him and were willing to give up everything for him. Due to this reason, although his reputation in the Rising Sky Mansions district was not good, it was not bad either. If it was an ordinary Brahma Temple's disciple who violated the rules, the lightest punishment would be caned and punished. The most severe punishment would be expulsion from the Brahma Temple. The flowery monk was undoubtedly an exception. Apart from the fact that his master was the abbot of the Brahma Temple, it was more because of his innate talent in the martial Tao that made everyone in the Brahma Temple admire him. Due to this reason, even if he violated the rules, nobody would say anything. Could it be that they would expel him? In fact, the flowery monk was the person with the highest innate talent in the martial Tao ever since the Brahma Temple was established. It was very likely that he would lead the Brahma Temple to become a 4th-rate force in the future. It was normal for such a person to have some privileges in the Brahma Temple. It's the Brahma Temple's 3 great guardian. The flowery monk was not unfamiliar to most of the people in the Nimble Valley. This was because he usually did not stay in the Brahma Temple and liked to wander around the Rising Sky Mansions district. Moreover, his whereabouts were high profile, so most of the people in the Rising Sky Mansions district recognized him. Even if they had not seen him in person, they had more or less seen his portrait, so they could recognize him. However, only a few people recognized the 3 old monks wearing silver kasayas next to him. The Brahma Temple's 3 great guardian was second only to the abbot and the supreme elder in the Brahma Temple. Everyone in the Rising Sky Mansions district knew how powerful they were. However, since they rarely appeared in front of people, not many people recognized them. The 3 of them were quite powerful individually. If they joined forces, their strength was not inferior to the abbot of the Brahma Temple. They're the Brahma Temple's 3 great guardian, Hui Feng, Hui Yun, and Hui Hua? That's right. That's them. It's said that they've been cultivating together since they joined the sect. After hundreds of years of interaction, they have a tacit understanding with each other and can perform extremely powerful joint attacks. I've heard about it as well. It's said that when the 3 of them join forces, their strength is not inferior to the abbot of the Brahma Temple. Even if the 3 of them don't join forces, they're still top-notch powerhouses in the Brahma Temple. It seems like the Brahma Temple values the Rising Sky ranking battle a lot. Not only did the abbot come personally, but even the 3 great guardian came as well. Everyone in the Nimble Valley discussed among themselves. On the other hand, the group of old and middle-aged monks behind the 5 of them were ignored by the others. Naturally, after a while, there were still people who recognized these monks. These monks were basically the Brahma Temple's elders. A few of them had higher strength and status in the Brahma Temple compared to the Brahma Temple's elders who had come to the Nimble Valley a few days ago. Since the Brahma Temple's elder had come as the leader a few days ago, he had also received a lot of attention from the people present on the scene. Since they had come together with the abbot, the 3 great guardian, and the flowery monk, they were more like green leaves while the flowery monk and the other 4 were like red flowers. Chapter 1666. However, among the group of people from the Brahma Temple, the one who received the most attention was the flowery monk. He was one of the main characters of the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. The flowery monk and the pure yang shrine's Jing Su Zi have always been on par with each other. I wonder who'll be ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking this time. That's a great honor in our Rising Sky Mansion's district. Whoever ranks first will have an extraordinary meaning to their respective forces. That's right. Whoever obtains the first place in the Rising Sky rankings will definitely have more people fighting to join their respective forces. The charisma of the person ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking is no joke. The first and second in the Rising Sky ranking this time should be the flowery monk and Jing Su Zi. I wonder if the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Jing, will be able to rank third in the Rising Sky ranking. I think it's unlikely. After all, Zhonggu's cultivation base has already broken through to the refined saint stage. I don't think so. Even the Rising Sky Mansion must have placed a lot of importance on the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. For this reason, they'll definitely use a lot of resources on Su Jing. I wouldn't be surprised if Su Jing has already broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage. That's true. If Su Jing has already broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage and Zhonggu hasn't, Zhonggu won't be a match for him. In the Nimble Valley, a group of people whispered among themselves. The topic of their discussion was either the flowery monk, Jing Su Zi, Su Jing, or Zhonggu. The 4 of them were undoubtedly the main characters in everyone's eyes. After the group of people from the Brahma Temple arrived, they stood in the corner of the Nimble Valley that was occupied by the Brahma Temple's elder who led the way a few days ago. Apart from the flowery monk, all the other monks sat there quietly without moving at all. They looked like statues. Only the flowery monk was looking around before his gaze finally landed on one person. It was a young man with a cold expression. He held an ancient and unadorned sword in his hand as he hovered in the air without moving at all. He emitted a sharp aura as though he had transformed into a sword at this moment. This was not the only reason why he noticed this young man. When the flowery monk first arrived, he noticed that among all the people present, only this person turned a blind eye to the arrival of the Brahma Temple group. Of course, maybe the other party didn't even look at them. The other party's current state did not completely seal off his 5 senses. This was something he could still see. Therefore, the other party was either a person who thought highly of himself and didn't think much of the Brahma Temple, or a person with extraordinary strength and an extraordinary background, so he didn't care about the arrival of the Brahma Temple. However, his intuition told him that the other party was not the former. Friend, are you here to join the Rising Sky ranking battle as well? The flowery monk was a straightforward person. After he became interested in this cold-faced young man, he directly stepped into the air and walked to the young man's side, taking the initiative to greet him. Is something the matter? The cold-faced young man opened his eyes and glanced indifferently at Monk Hua as he asked, "Friend, people call me Flowery Monk. How should I address you?" Flowery Monk asked with a smile. "Li Feng." The cold-faced young man was none other than Duan Lingtian. Although the current Duan Lingtian still had a cold expression, it was not the same as when he went to Greenwave City. Apart from that, he had changed his face with the disguising secret tactic. Although he was still cold, he did not look like the previous Lingtian at all. Currently, he was here for the Rising Sky ranking battle. Li Feng was his current name. Li was his mother's surname. Feng was taken from the last word of his cheapskate father's name. So it's Brother Li Feng. Brother Li Feng, are you here to join the Rising Sky ranking battle as well? Monk Huan narrowed his eyes with a smile as he asked. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently. However, he thought to himself, This flowery monk is just like the rumors say. He's a dissolute man who doesn't care about etiquette. Although he's a monk, he doesn't have the habits of a monk at all. No wonder the people in the Rising Sky Mansions district call him the variant in the Brahma Temple. However, the fact that he's able to suppress Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, shows that he's not simple at all. Duan Lingtian, who had been in the Rising Sky Mansions district for a while, had, naturally, heard of the flowery monk. Apart from the flowery monk, he had also heard of Jing Suzi. Just as the flowery monk opened his mouth and was about to say something, he seemed to have noticed something. With a jolt, he shifted his gaze away from Duan Lingtian and looked into the distance. In that direction, a group of people was making their way over. The person in the lead was an old man wearing a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. The old man had a medium build, white hair, and a ruddy complexion. His Taoist robe fluttered even though there was no wind, giving him a celestial air. Behind the old man, there was a young man and two old men. The three of them were also wearing Taoist robes. One of them was fat while the other was thin. Behind the four of them was a group of middle-aged and old Taoists. It's the people from the Pure Yang Shrine. At this moment, many people in the Nimble Valley recognized the group of people and exclaimed in surprise. The group of Taoists who had just arrived was led by the shrine master of the Pure Yang Shrine. As for the two old men behind him, they were the two vice shrine masters of the Pure Yang Shrine. The person standing next to the two vice shrine masters was none other than Jing Suzi. He was also the most outstanding genius Tao cultivator among the middle-aged generation in the Pure Yang Shrine. In the Pure Yang Shrine, apart from the older generation and the younger generation, the people of the same generation would respectfully address him as Great Senior Brother. Due to this reason, in the Rising Sky Mansions district, as long as someone mentioned the Great Senior Brother of the Pure Yang Shrine, they would know it was him. Unlike the flowery monk who was capricious, Jing Suzi was a very serious person who followed the rules. As the most outstanding genius powerhouses among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansions district, both of their strengths were on par with each other. However, their personalities were completely different. Jing Suzi, it's been a while since we last met. I, the flowery monk, am going to take the first place in the Rising Sky rankings this time. The flowery monk looked at Jing Suzi and chuckled. His words were filled with provocation. In the Rising Sky Mansions district, the flowery monk and Jing Suzi were mortal enemies. This was a well-known fact. Due to this reason, their meeting had always been unpleasant. Faced with the flowery monk's provocation, Jing Suzi merely snorted coldly and did not say anything. Chapter 1667. Jing Suzi. At this moment, Duan Lingtian also shifted his gaze to Jing Suzi. Please search for the most complete. He had long heard about this genius Tao cultivator in the Rising Sky Mansions district. He knew his strength was on par with the flowery monk. Moreover, both of them were stronger than Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Of course, saying that they were stronger than Su Jing only meant that they used to be stronger than Su Jing. Tomorrow would be the day the Rising Sky ranking battle would officially begin. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, must have been fully prepared for this day as well. In fact, even the Rising Sky Mansion must have spared no effort in nurturing him and had invested a lot of cultivation resources in him. Due to this reason, even Duan Lingtian was not certain the flowery monk and Jing Suzi would be able to defeat Su Jing. Of course, although he was not certain, he still subconsciously felt that the flowery monk and Jing Suzi were stronger than Su Jing. Zhonggu is here as well. Another exclamation resonated in the air, attracting the attention of many people, including Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian looked over and saw an ordinary-looking young man dressed in plain clothes flying over from afar. He carried a broad saber on his back. The broad saber did not have a scabbard and was only wrapped in layers of plain cloth. It made him seem low-key. However, although this plain-clothed young man kept a low profile, his appearance in the Nimble Valley still caught many people's attention. This was because he was Zhonggu. If the flowery monk and Jing Suzi were the most outstanding among those in the prime of their lives who were below the age of 50 in the Rising Sky Mansions district, then, apart from Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he would be ranked below them. When Zhonggu was at the peak of the Pristine Saint stage, he had defeated Su Jing, who was also at the peak of the Pristine Saint stage. However, after Su Jing had broken through to the early refined Saint stage, he was no longer a match for him. However, Zhonggu had also broken through to the early refined Saint stage. If Su Jing was still at the early refined Saint stage, he might not be a match for Zhonggu. Naturally, the possibility of Su Jing being at the early refined Saint stage was very low. After all, he was the young mansion master of a fourth-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion. The appearance of the flowery monk, Jing Suzi, and Zhonggu attracted the attention of most of the people in the Nimble Valley. Duan Lingtian, who was floating in the air not far from the flowery monk, did not attract much attention because he looked unfamiliar. Only the flowery monk seemed to be interested in him at first. However, after probing for a while, the flowery monk couldn't find anything different about Duan Lingtian, which made him a little puzzled. In the end, after bidding farewell to Duan Lingtian, he left and returned to the corner of the Nimble Valley where the Brahma Temple's people were. As for the people from the Pure Yang Shrine, including Jing Suzi, they had also settled down in the Nimble Valley. As a rogue cultivator, Zhonggu did not have such a grand display of extravagance. He found a place by himself and quietly rested. From beginning to end, he did not speak to anyone, appearing incomparably cold. As time passed, the last person from the fifth-rate force arrived in the afternoon. Naturally, someone from this fifth-rate force had already taken the lead and occupied a corner of the Nimble Valley as their resting place. For this reason, after these people arrived, they stayed there. Although this fifth-rate force did not have outstanding genius disciples like the flowery monk from the Brahma Temple and Jing Suzi from the Pure Yang Shrine, they did not lack disciples with extraordinary innate talent. This time, many of them came to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle tomorrow. Naturally, they did not dare to think about being in the top 3 of the Rising Sky ranking. Moreover, they did not even dare to think about being in the 4th place of the Rising Sky ranking. In the opinion of most people in the Rising Sky Mansions district, if there were no accidents, the top 10 of the Rising Sky ranking this time would definitely be the flowery monk, Chong Suzi, Su Jing, and Zhonggu. Naturally, although it was said that there would be no accidents, how could there be so many accidents? Due to this reason, many people were almost certain that the top 4 of the Rising Sky ranking this time would undoubtedly be the 4 of them. This fifth-rate force's goal for their disciples was to be in the top 10 of the Rising Sky ranking. Soon after, evening arrived. The sky above the Nimble Valley seemed to have been dyed red. It was completely blood red. The people from the Rising Sky Mansion haven't arrived yet? Many people were looking around, but they did not see the people from the Rising Sky Mansion. Naturally, there were people from the Rising Sky Mansion in the Nimble Valley, but they were sent by the Rising Sky Mansion to lead the way. The person leading them was only the 9th elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. What's going on with the Rising Sky Mansion? Don't tell me they're only coming tomorrow? Impossible. According to the rules of the Rising Sky ranking battle in the past, it always starts when the sun rises. This time should be no exception. Due to this reason, it's impossible for the people from the Rising Sky Mansion to come tomorrow. They won't be able to make it in time. It's not just the Rising Sky Mansion. There are also people from 2 other fourth-rate forces who haven't arrived yet. The powerhouses from the 2 fourth-rate forces follow the rules of their respective forces and come to our Rising Sky Mansions district every 50 years to maintain the fairness of the Rising Sky ranking in our Rising Sky Mansion. Usually, they'll come with the people from the Rising Sky Mansion. The Nimble Valley was bustling with discussions. The other 2 fourth-rate forces, even Duan Lingtian, only found out recently that the people from the other 2 fourth-rate forces would come to the Rising Sky ranking battle. The people from the fourth-rate forces were all powerhouses from their respective forces. These powerhouses came to the Rising Sky ranking battle not because of the Rising Sky Mansion's invitation, but because they were following the rules of their respective forces. A long time ago, when the Rising Sky ranking was first created, in order to ensure fairness, the person who presided over the Rising Sky ranking battle was not the Rising Sky Mansion. Instead, it was the powerhouses from the other two fourth-rate forces. The two fourth-rate forces were so powerful that they were not inferior to the Rising Sky Mansion. Due to this reason, the powerhouses from their respective forces were not afraid of the Rising Sky Mansion. Due to this reason, they did not have to worry about the people from the Rising Sky Mansion suppressing them or cheating. Due to this reason, the Rising Sky ranking battle could be said to be very fair. After learning about this, Duan Lingtian sighed in relief. In this case, even if I kill the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Jing, during the Rising Sky ranking battle, the powerhouse from the Rising Sky Mansion won't dare to make a move on me in front of the powerhouses from the other two fourth-rate forces. There was only one purpose for him to appear here today, and that was to kill Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, and save Xuanai from this calamity. As for the ranking in the Rising Sky ranking, he did not care at all. Put aside the fact that he was not from the Rising Sky Mansion's district and did not need such an honor, even if he was not interested in the Rising Sky ranking at all. It was just an empty title. He had experienced too much along the way, and he had long become indifferent to this matter. They're here. They're here. It was only when a cry resonated in the air that Duan Lingtian regained his senses. At the same time, he looked in the direction where most of the people in the Nimble Valley were looking. In the distant sky, a group of people was making their way over in a mighty manner. When these people got closer, they could faintly see that they were divided into three groups. The three groups of people were walking side by side without any order. It's the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Tsin. It was unknown who had a sharp eye as he looked at the group of people walking in the middle. To be more precise, he was looking at the person who was leading the group of people. It was an old man with a face full of curly beard. The old man had snow-white hair, snow-white eyebrows, and even the curly beard on his face was snow-white. From afar, he looked like a white lion, imperceptibly giving off a certain pressure. He was none other than the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Vi. In the Rising Sky Mansion, even if Su Tsin's strength could not be ranked in the top 3, it would not be a problem for him to be ranked in the top 5. Due to this reason, his arrival had shocked many people. Su Tsin's position in the Rising Sky Mansion was only second to the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, the two Vice Mansion Masters, and the elusive Supreme Elder. I can't believe Elder Su Tsin personally came. It seems like the Rising Sky Mansion values the Rising Sky ranking battle very much. Don't you think that's nonsense? The Rising Sky ranking is the most authoritative ranking in our Rising Sky Mansion's district. As the most powerful force in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, isn't it normal for the Rising Sky Mansion to value it? Why don't I see the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion? That's right. Where's Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion? As the discussion spread, everyone noticed that one of the main characters of the Rising Sky ranking battle this time, Su Jing, did not come with the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion and the others. Don't tell me Su Jing isn't coming? That's impossible. No matter what, Su Jing is the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Moreover, his innate talent is not bad as well. How could he possibly miss the Rising Sky ranking battle this time? That's right. The Rising Sky ranking battle is held once every 50 years, and there's an age limit. In other words, a person only has one chance to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle in their lifetime, so how could he not come? Even if he doesn't want fame, he must want to become the next mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, right? As far as I know, in the Rising Sky Mansion, those who don't enter the Rising Sky ranking battle in their lifetime are destined to never become the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. This is the rule of the Rising Sky Mansion. It's also an ironclad rule that has been like this since ancient times. I've heard of this before. However, the young mansion master, Su Jing, has yet to appear even though the Rising Sky Mansion's main force has arrived. What's going on? Perhaps he's met with some unexpected situation. In the Nimble Valley, the fact that Su Jing had yet to arrive had caused a commotion. Humph! What arrogance! In terms of strength, the flowery monk and Jing Suzi are much stronger than him. Why is he still not here yet? Why is he putting on airs? The young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, if he didn't have such a halo and was placed in the Brahma Temple and Pure Yang Shrine instead, I'm afraid he would have been suppressed by the flowery monk and Jing Suzi until he couldn't even lift his head. The Nimble Valley was getting more and more lively. Many people even began to mock Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Chapter 1668. In the Rising Sky Mansion's district, although Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was quite famous, it was mostly because of his identity. In terms of strength, he was no match for the flowery monk and Jing Suzi. In fact, he was not even comparable to Zhonggu if they were on the same level. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the strong were revered. Su Jing's performance and his reputation was not inferior to the flowery monk and Jing Suzi. It was only natural that many people were dissatisfied with him. In everyone's opinion, Su Jing had only achieved what he had today because of his background. If it was not for his good background, he would be nothing at all. He might not even be able to enter the top 10 of the Rising Sky ranking. When Su Tsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, heard the discussions in the Nimble Valley that were getting more and more brazen, his expression turned grave immediately. If it was any other time, he would have suppressed them with his strength and shut them up. However, with the presence of the powerhouses from the other two fourth-rate forces, the strength of the strongest powerhouse from any of the forces was not inferior to him. Due to this reason, he did not do anything even though he was enraged by the discussions in the surroundings. Our young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion has gone out to train some time ago. He'll naturally show up in the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. There's no need for all of you to worry. Finally, Su Tsun could not help but speak up. The moment he spoke, his voice that contained true origin swept out and spread in the entire Nimble Valley. Everyone heard it. At once, most of the people who were still discussing among themselves fell silent. They could tell that the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion was angry. Naturally, there were also a small number of people who seemed to know that the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion would not dare to do anything with the presence of the people from the other two fourth-rate forces. Due to this reason, they continued to whisper among themselves. As for the content of their whispers, it was all about Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Elder Su Tsun, it seems like the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion will only show up after the Rising Sky ranking battle begins. The old man who led the group on the left of the Rising Sky Mansion's people looked at Su Tsun and said with a smile. This old man was dressed in green and held a walking stick in his hand. His eyes were narrowed, and he looked very amiable like an old man next door. Upon hearing this, Su Tsun could only smile awkwardly. I think so. The two of you, let's go over there and rest first. Su Tsun pointed to a corner of the Nimble Valley with verdant hills and limpid waters as he spoke to the green-clothed old man and the leader of the other group. His tone was very polite and he did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. Whether it was the green-clad old man or the other person, both of them were from fourth-rate forces. Moreover, their strength was not inferior to Su Tsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion. The place Su Tsun pointed at was the place the 9th Elder of the Rising Sky Mansion had occupied previously. The people from the three fourth-rate forces rested in the Nimble Valley just like that. The other two fourth-rate forces? Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion. Duan Lingtian did not know much about the other two fourth-rate forces powerhouses who presided over the Rising Sky ranking battle. However, he had heard of these two fourth-rate forces since he had been in the Rising Sky Mansion's district for a long time. The Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion were both powerful fourth-rate forces whose strength was not inferior to the Rising Sky Mansion. The Green Wave Han Mansion was within the territory of the Sky Hurdle Mansion. I can't see through that Grand Elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. I'm pretty sure he's an eminent Saint Stage powerhouse. Moreover, he's not an ordinary eminent Saint Stage powerhouse. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he looked at the disappearing silhouette in the distance. When Duan Lingtian faced the Grand Elder of the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Tsin, he could clearly feel a certain amount of pressure. This pressure was even stronger than when he faced the Green Wave Han Mansion's Mansion Master, Han Zheng. Due to this reason, he was almost certain the Grand Elder of the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Tsin, was much stronger than Han Zheng. After the powerhouses from the 3 fourth-rate forces, including the Rising Sky Mansion, settled down, the leaders from the Brahma Temple, Pure Yang Shrine, and the other 5th-rate force went up to pay them a visit one after another. It was as though they were afraid they would be in trouble if they neglected them. As a 5th-rate force, although their strength was not bad, it was nothing in front of a 4th-rate force. The evening gradually faded away as night fell. At this moment, Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, still had not appeared. Does Su Jing really plan to come after the Rising Sky ranking battle has started? Duan Lingtian, who was hovering in the air at a corner of the Nimble Valley, frowned imperceptibly as he thought to himself. In fact, the reason he came this time was because of Su Jing. Until now, he had not seen Su Jing, so it was normal for him to feel a little agitated. As the night fell, although there were many people in the Nimble Valley, it gradually quietened down. Nobody spoke anymore. The night was silent. On the morning of the second day, almost everyone opened their eyes and stepped into the air as the sun rose from the horizon. Boom! Along with a loud sound, the green-clad old man from the Sky Hurdle Mansion shook the crutch in his hand and pointed it at the void in the middle of the Nimble Valley. In an instant, the void trembled. Ripples that looked like water ripples spread out, wave after wave, gradually spreading out. What's he doing? Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian noticed the leader of the Raging Wave Mansion's group had also made his move. It was a bald, brawny man dressed in blue. With a raise of his hand, a plain-looking gigantic hammer appeared in his hand. The gigantic hammer flew across the sky and smashed toward the void in the middle of the Nimble Valley. The gigantic hammer smashed toward the place where the green-clad old man from the Sky Hurdle Mansion had pointed his crutch at earlier. Both of them hit the same place. In the void, the ripples that were spreading out like ripples shattered with a loud bang as the hammer smashed down. At this moment, a crack appeared in the void in the middle of the Nimble Valley. The crack was getting bigger and bigger, causing Duan Lingtian to shudder in fear when he saw this. What's going on? In fact, it was not only Duan Lingtian who was shocked. Many people present on the scene were also shocked by the scene before their eyes. Naturally, there were also some people who were not surprised by this. These people were all people who had participated in the Rising Sky ranking battle before. They had either participated in it or watched it from the side. So, it's the effect of the formation. Soon after, Duan Lingtian discovered that the shocking scene he saw earlier was actually just an illusion of the formation. To be more precise, the void in the middle of the Nimble Valley was just a part of the illusion of the formation. However, the powerhouses from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion had made their move and destroyed the formation, causing a crack to appear. Not only that, but it also revealed everything behind the formation. As everything behind the formation was revealed, what appeared before everyone's eyes, including Duan Lingtian, was a chessboard. A chessboard that was constantly getting bigger in their eyes. In the beginning, the chess pieces were normal-sized in their eyes. After a while, the chess pieces became the size of a fist. After that, the chess pieces became the size of an adult. In the end, each chess piece could stand up to hundreds of people. At this moment, the chessboard and the chess pieces on it no longer grew bigger. Instead, they were frozen in place. Is this inside the illusory formation? When Duan Lingtian regained his senses from the shock, he discovered that he was inside a chessboard that stretched as far as the eye could see. Beneath his feet was a gigantic chess piece. If they were willing to squeeze, it would not be a problem for them to stand up to 200 people. Duan Lingtian gasped as he looked around. When he discovered that the chessboard had no end, he raised his head again. He saw a gray sky above his head. The gray sky pressed down on him as though it was trapping him and the others in the chessboard. This is the nimble chess set? At this moment, a cry of surprise resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears, causing him to be stunned. The nimble chess set? Soon after, Duan Lingtian finally found out what the boundless chess set in front of him was from the whispers of some people. As it turned out, it was the nimble chess set in the Nimble Valley. Of course, this so-called nimble chess game was essentially an illusory formation. The nimble chess set was also the stage for the Rising Sky ranking battle, and the Nimble Valley was named Nimble because of the nimble chess set. Duan Lingtian only found out about all this now. Whoosh, whoosh. As the sound of wind whistling reverberated in the air, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes and looked over. He saw the old man from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the bald, burly man from the Raging Wave Mansion rising into the air. In just a blink of an eye, they were high up in the sky, looking down at everyone. At the moment, most of the people in the vast nimble chess game were still in a daze. The scene before them also stunned them. Most of the people present on the scene were here to watch the Rising Sky ranking battle for the first time. Everyone, our Sky Hurdle Mansion will send someone to preside over the Rising Sky ranking battle every 50 years due to the instructions passed down by our old ancestor. This time, our Sky Hurdle Mansion has sent me to preside over the Rising Sky ranking battle. The old man who was holding a walking stick said loudly. He looked very old, but his voice was filled with vigor. It did not sound like an old man at all. My name is Ren Zhong, and I'm the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion. You can address me as Vice Mansion Master Ren or Elder Ren. The old man continued to say. Boom. The moment the old man's words left his mouth, the scene burst into an uproar. The Vice Mansion Master of the Sky Hurdle Mansion? Most of the people present on the scene did not know much about the Sky Hurdle Mansion. After all, they were only from the Rising Sky Mansion's district, and it was difficult for them to come into contact with a force at the level of the Sky Hurdle Mansion. Naturally, although they could not come into contact with a force at the level of the Sky Hurdle Mansion, it did not mean they knew nothing about the Sky Hurdle Mansion. They were both fourth-rate forces. In their opinion, the Vice Mansion Master of the Sky Hurdle Mansion was no different from the Vice Mansion Masters of the Rising Sky Mansion's district. I can't believe he's the Vice Mansion Master of the Sky Hurdle Mansion. Chapter 1669. As Ren Zhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, introduced himself, the bald burly man who was the leader of the Raging Wave Mansion's group also chimed in. Everyone, what Elder Ren said is what I want to say as well. Since he has already said so, I won't say anything else. I'm Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. The bald burly man was also the representative sent by the Raging Wave Mansion to preside over the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. After Ren Zhong finished speaking, he introduced himself. Similar to the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Rising Sky Mansion, the Raging Wave Mansion was a fourth-rate force. However, compared to Ren Zhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, and Su Zhen, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion was nothing. It seems like the Raging Wave Mansion doesn't really care about the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. They actually only sent a second elder to preside over the Rising Sky ranking battle. Soon after, someone could not help but whisper after learning about the bald burly man's identity. Since someone had taken the lead, it was only natural that someone else would follow suit. In just a few moments, the gigantic chessboard that stretched as far as the eye could see began to bustle again. The second elder of Raging Wave Mansion seems to be on a completely different level from the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion and the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion. I really don't know what the Raging Wave Mansion is thinking. To think that they actually only sent a second elder. That's right. How can a mere second elder of Raging Wave Mansion uphold the fairness of the Rising Sky ranking battle? In our Rising Sky Mansion's district, only the people from Rising Sky Mansion have the strength to uphold the fairness of the Rising Sky ranking battle. This time, if the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion isn't here, and the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion wants to ignore the rules of the Rising Sky ranking battle, how is Elder Ri going to stop him? That's right. In my opinion, the second Elder of Raging Wave Mansion is only here to go through the motions. At the critical moment, with his little strength, he won't be able to do anything at all. When they saw that Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, did not seem to care about their discussion, more and more people on the nimble chess set began to join in the unbridled discussion. Lu Hongguang stood in the air with a calm expression, as if he didn't hear the discussions around him. In fact, with his cultivation level, even if the people present were only whispering, he would be able to hear them clearly. Not to mention, those people were talking about him without restraint. Therefore, the reason why he looked so calm was because he didn't care about these discussions at all. However, even if Lu Hongguang didn't care, it didn't mean that the people from the Raging Wave Mansion who came with him didn't care as well. These elders and disciples from the Raging Wave Mansion had angry expressions on their faces. Several people even opened their mouths to defend themselves. However, before their voices could come out, they were drowned out by the noisy discussions around them. The corner of Suzhen, the Grand Elder of the Rising Sky Mansion, twitched imperceptibly when he heard the discussion in the surroundings. These people were saying that Lu Hongguang was inferior to him? Although he was slightly older than Lu Hongguang's strength had already surpassed his 10 years ago. At that time, he had followed the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion to the Raging Wave Mansion as a guest. He had fought with Lu Hongguang, and he was defeated in less than 100 moves. During that battle, other than using saint inscriptions, Dao talismans, and other external forces, he had used all his techniques, but in the end he was still inferior to Lu Hongguang. For this reason, he accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. When he heard the people around him saying that Lu Hongguang was inferior to him, his face flushed red. He felt so ashamed that he wanted to crawl into a hole. The second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, Lu Hongguang, isn't as simple as he seems. Among the people present on the scene, apart from those who were familiar with Lu Hongguang, there were only a few people, including Duan Lingtian, who disagreed with the discussions around them. When the people from the three great fourth-rate forces arrived, Duan Lingtian had already noticed a problem. Suzhen, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, was not only polite to Renzhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, but he was also extremely polite to Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. They were both from fourth-rate forces, and Suzhen was the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion. Even if it was out of respect for the Raging Wave Mansion, he would not have been so polite if Lu Hongguang was weak. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. It was impossible for those who were of the same background and stronger to treat those who were weaker in this manner. The few powerhouses from the three great fifth-rate forces in the Rising Sky Mansions district who shared the same thoughts as Duan Lingtian were present as well. Apart from them, there was the flowery monk, Jing Suzi and Zhonggu. Based on their expressions, it was obvious they did not agree with the discussions around them. "Everyone, can you please listen to me?" Just when the situation was getting out of hand, Renzhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, finally spoke. His voice contained true origin and suppressed the voices of everyone present on the scene in just a blink of an eye, causing those who were still discussing fervently to shut their mouths. After these people shut their mouths, their eyes shifted to Renzhong in unison. All of them wanted to know what the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion would say under such circumstances. When Renzhong saw the scene had quietened down, he continued to look at Lu Hongguang. His voice was still filled with true origin as he said, "In terms of seniority, this second elder of Raging Wave Mansion can be considered as my uncle and nephew. However, in terms of strength, even I'm not confident I can defeat him." The moment Renzhong's words left his mouth, the scene that had already quieted down fell silent again. Renzhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, said he was not confident he could defeat the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion? Was this even possible? What a joke! How can a mere second elder of Raging Wave Mansion's strength be compared to the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion? Is this even possible? I think the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion only said such words because he doesn't want to embarrass the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. I think so too. Although Renzhong had spoken up to help Lu Hongguang, not many people present on the scene believed his words. All of them thought he only said such a lie because he wanted to help the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion resolve this embarrassing situation. When Renjong saw this, he could not help but frown. Just as he was about to explain himself, he was stopped by Lu Hongguang, who was standing at the side. Lu Hongguang said nonchalantly, "Elder Ren, even I, the person involved in this matter, don't take it to heart. You don't have to bother about it. I appreciate your kindness." Since Lu Hongguang had said so, Renjong, naturally, did not say anything else. "Hongguang, you're much calmer than an old man like me." In the end, Renjong could not help but sigh emotionally. No matter what, the main topic today was the Rising Sky ranking battle that was about to begin. For this reason, as time passed by, the discussion about Lu Hongguang gradually died down. Everyone's attention was now focused on the Rising Sky ranking battle. When the sun shrouded the land, Renjong, the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, who was one of the hosts of the Rising Sky ranking battle today, said, "Today is the first day of the Rising Sky ranking battle. Among those who came to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle, I'm sure many of you already know the rules of the Rising Sky ranking battle. However, I'm sure there are some who are unaware of the rules as well. Now, I'll explain the rules of the Rising Sky ranking battle in detail so that the people behind you don't know about it." The moment Renjong's words left his mouth, he began to explain the rules of the Rising Sky ranking battle. He began by explaining the rules that Duan Lingtian also knew about. The Rising Sky ranking battle did not allow for life or death. Naturally, if one party took the initiative to admit defeat, the other party would not be allowed to make a move. As the hosts of the Rising Sky ranking battle, Renjong and Lu Hongguang would also make a move to save the person who admitted defeat. It did not allow for life or death. Although almost everyone who came to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle already knew about this rule, they still could not help but tremble when they heard it from Renjong. It was a matter of life and death, so they could not control their emotions. Some of them even had thoughts of retreating. Although they could admit defeat, if they really fought, it would be a matter of life and death. Unless they were evenly matched, it would be difficult for them to admit defeat. There were no specific rules in the Rising Sky ranking battle. The 10 people who stood at the end would be the people who would be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking this year. No external force, including saint weapons, is allowed in the Rising Sky ranking battle. Once it's used, the person will be disqualified from the Rising Sky ranking battle. Renjong continued to explain. This was also very important. No external force was allowed. One could only rely on one's own strength to compete for the right to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. The reason there was such a rule was because the person who set up the Rising Sky ranking was worried that the disciples from the major forces would be given external resources by the major forces. The major forces did not lack high-grade saint inscriptions and high-grade Dao talismans. If they were allowed to rely on external forces, it would be unfair to the sectless cultivators who came from ordinary backgrounds. All of you should have heard that the Rising Sky ranking battle doesn't have any specific rules. As long as one stands at the end, he'll be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. The Rising Sky ranking battle will only truly end when there are no more challengers. At that time, the Rising Sky ranking battle will truly end. Renjong continued to explain. At this moment, under the watchful eyes of the others, Renjong and Lu Hongguang looked at each other and lifted the walking stick and giant hammer in their hands in tacit understanding before they struck at the void above the nimble chess set. This time, both of them struck at different directions. Bang, bang. Along with two soft sounds, the people present on the scene could clearly feel the heaven and earth spirit energy in the nimble chess set was in chaos. It took a while before it calmed down. At the same time, they could clearly see 10 chess pieces suddenly flew up from the nimble chess set's chessboard. They were 5 black chess pieces and 5 white chess pieces. After the 10 chess pieces rose up, they hovered in the air as though there was an invisible force supporting them. This. Chapter 1670. The 10 chess pieces in the air continued to grow. In the end, each of the chess pieces seemed to have transformed into a vast platform. Of course, although these chess pieces had become very large, they were nothing compared to the chessboard of the nimble chess set. However, the 10 chess pieces hovering in the air still gave Duan Lingtian a strong visual shock. Such huge chess pieces hovering in the air. Is this the mirror image of an illusory formation? However, when Renzhong spoke again and asked everyone present to stand on the 10 huge chess pieces in the air, Duan Lingtian realized the 10 huge chess pieces hovering in the air were not an ordinary mirror image of an illusory formation. When he landed on them, he felt as though he was standing on solid ground. What kind of formation is this? Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with shock. It can actually make the mirror image of an illusory formation so realistic. Although Duan Lingtian knew a little about formations, the formations he could set up were nothing compared to the formation that set up the nimble chess set before his eyes. Even the illusory formation that the illusory formation compass in my hand can set up is nothing compared to this illusory formation. Who's the person who set up this illusory formation? It's so powerful. Duan Lingtian was filled with shock. Previously, when Duan Lingtian obtained the 3 formation compasses in the moon illumination sect, he had only used the formation compass that could set up the illusory formation. As for the other 2 formation compasses, one of them had yet to be repaired while the other one was almost fully repaired. According to Hua Lao, it would take at most half a year to repair it. However, Duan Lingtian, who possessed the Jasper Celestial Sword and the Devil Seal Tablet, was not very reliant on the formation compasses. Due to this reason, he was not in a hurry to repair it. Hua Lao had said that the 3 formation compasses would be of great help to him as long as he had sufficient energy. Of course, Hua Lao had also said that the 3 formation discs were not as helpful to him as the Jasper Celestial Sword. However, the difference was that the Jasper Celestial Sword consumed a lot of energy. As for the formation discs, they did not consume the energy in his body. Therefore, although Duan Lingtian did not rely on the formation plates, he still hoped that Hua Lao could fix them. Perhaps they would be of use in the future. Isn't the effect of this illusion array too realistic? Unbelievable! I felt like I was really stepping on this chess piece. If I squatted down, I could reach out and touch this chess piece. What kind of illusion array is this? It's so miraculous. I can be sure that the chess pieces under our feet aren't real. But even if they aren't real, there's some sort of power that's materializing into chess pieces that's supporting us. This is the first time I've seen such an illusory formation in my life. I guess I haven't lived in vain. These 10 chess pieces are the venue for the Rising Sky ranking battle? Duan Lingtian shuddered when he heard the commotion. He quickly regained his senses and shifted his attention back to Renzhong. Although there were 2 people presiding over the Rising Sky ranking battle, Lu Hongguang did not say anything apart from introducing himself. Renzhong was the one who spoke the whole time. Due to this reason, almost everyone present on the scene acknowledged Renzhong as the host. As for Lu Hongguang, it was as though he had been forgotten. However, Lu Hongguang did not seem to care much about this. He stood quietly next to Renzhong and faced the situation calmly. Everyone, the 10 chess pieces in front of you are the venue for the Rising Sky ranking battle. You can treat the 10 chess pieces as 10 arenas. These 10 arenas will give birth to 10 ring masters. At this moment, Renzhong continued to speak. Anyone who's qualified to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle can challenge any of the ring masters. As long as you can defeat him, you'll be able to replace him and become the new ring master. Any of the 10 ring masters will be considered to have advanced if no one challenges them within a day. They'll be qualified to participate in the real Rising Sky ranking battle. If they don't become the ring master, they won't be qualified to participate in the real Rising Sky ranking battle. Renzhong continued to speak. The real Rising Sky ranking battle. Although his words were a little exaggerated, they were not wrong. Although it could be said that the Rising Sky ranking battle would take place in the following days, more than 90% of them were not fated to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. This was because the Rising Sky ranking would only take in 10 people every time since ancient times, and this time was no exception. Only the final 10 ring masters would be listed in the Rising Sky ranking battle. In other words, The final battle between the 10 ringmasters would be the real Rising Sky ranking battle, since they would be competing for a specific ranking in the Rising Sky ranking. Now, everyone, please retreat to the edge of your chess pieces and empty the space in the middle. Then, anyone who meets the requirements can go to the middle of the chess pieces and become the ringmaster. You can wait for your opponent or challenge the current ringmaster. Rin Zhong's voice resonated again. At this moment, the people on the 10 chess pieces began to retreat to the edge. At the same time, the vast space in the middle of the 10 chess pieces was emptied. Bush, 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 bush. At this moment, an ear-piercing sound of wind whistling reverberated in the air. 5 people from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and 5 people from the Raging Wave Mansion walked out. A total of 10 people appeared on top of the 10 chess pieces respectively as they looked down at the ground. It was as though they were divided into 10 people who corresponded to the 10 chess pieces to monitor the situation. Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, and I will be the main hosts of the Rising Sky ranking battle this year. As for the others, they'll be the vice hosts of the Rising Sky ranking battle this year. Each of them will be in charge of one chess piece, which is also a ring. As for their responsibilities, apart from checking the age of the participants, they'll also have to ensure the fairness of each ring, Rin Zhong said. Everyone was enlightened. At this moment, everyone present on the scene finally understood. Earlier, many people were still thinking that the Rising Sky ranking battle would be divided into 10 spots at the same time. Each time, there would be 20 people fighting at the same time. If there were only 2 hosts, Rin Zhong and Lu Hongguang, even if they could manage it, would they be able to interfere? If there were 6 or 7 spots at the same time, would they be able to intervene in time even though they were strong? Many people were skeptical about this. However, when they saw the addition of 10 vice hosts, they finally understood. As it turned out, the Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion had long been prepared. There was no need for them to worry at all. Is it finally going to start? Duan Lingtun muttered to himself as he hugged his sword and stood at the corner of one of the black chess pieces. Chapter 1671. The Jasper Celestial Sword looked simple and unadorned. There was nothing special about it at all. There was a reason why Duan Lingtian was hugging the Jasper Celestial Sword at all times. Not long ago, he discovered to his surprise that his comprehension of the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, seemed to have deepened a little when he came into contact with the Jasper Celestial Sword. As long as the Jasper Celestial Sword was in his hands, he had a feeling he would be able to find an opportunity to break through to the second stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword. Ever since he discovered this, he no longer kept the Jasper Celestial Sword in his spatial ring or the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Up until now, my Sovereign Heart Sword is still stuck at the first stage, the Sword in the Heart. I wonder when I'll be able to break through to the second stage. According to the introduction of the Sovereign Heart Sword, even if I've only comprehended it to the second stage, the power I'll be able to unleash is enough to suppress 99% of the techniques in the Earth Rank Saint Grade martial tactics. The reason it was not able to suppress all the techniques in the Earth Rank Saint Grade martial tactics was because there were variants in the Earth Rank Saint Grade martial tactics as well. For example, there were variants in the Earth Rank Saint Grade martial tactics. There was a technique in the top human rank Saint Grade martial tactics that was not inferior to the techniques in the ordinary Earth rank Saint Grade martial tactics. There were such variants in the Earth rank Saint Grade martial tactics as well. There was usually a technique in the top Earth rank Saint Grade martial tactics that was not inferior to the techniques in the ordinary Heaven rank Saint Grade martial tactics. Duan Lingtian's Sovereign Heart Sword was still lacking compared to such a technique even though he had cultivated it to the second stage. Naturally, this was not embarrassing at all. After all, the Sovereign Heart Sword had a total of 5 stages. It was only the second stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword that was inferior to such a technique. Although I haven't grasped the opportunity to break through to the second stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, with my current strength, it shouldn't be difficult for me to kill an intermediate refined Saint Stage martial cultivator without using any external force. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. On this point he was still very confident. Although he was only at the intermediate pristine saint stage, due to the existence of the Sun true origin in his body, his true origin was comparable to refined saint stage martial and Tao cultivators. As an intermediate refined saint stage martial or Tao cultivator, it might be a little difficult for him to rely on the Sun true origin alone. However, if he relied on his 10,000 swords territory or his brute strength, he was confident he could easily defeat an intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse. In addition, he also had the strange pupil. Although the strange pupil would not have much of an effect in front of an intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse with his current cultivation base and divine consciousness, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. It would still be of some help to him. If I'm not mistaken, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Jing, has most likely broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage. However, even if he has broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage, he might not necessarily be a match for the flowery monk and Jing Suzi. Previously, the flowery monk and Jing Suzi were already at the intermediate refined saint stage. Currently, it's very likely that they have broken through to the mastery refined saint stage. Even if they haven't broken through yet, their strength can't be underestimated. Naturally, if they haven't broken through yet, I'm confident I can defeat them. However, if they have broken through, it'll be extremely difficult for me to defeat them. The strength of a mastery refined saint stage powerhouse is not something an intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse can compare to. However, that's not important. My purpose in participating in the Rising Sky ranking battle this time is not to obtain the first place in the Rising Sky ranking, but to kill the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Jing. Duan Lingtian did not forget his purpose in coming here. He changed his appearance and came here under the alias of Li Feng. He wanted to kill Su Jing and help Han Xuanai, whom he regarded as his own sister. As long as Su Jing was dead, the engagement between him and Han Xuanai would naturally be annulled. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he finally regained his senses. At this moment, he discovered there were already two people fighting in the empty space in the middle of the chess piece he was standing on. In just a short period of time, it was hard to tell who was the winner. Based on the thickness of the true origin on their bodies, they're at least at the intermediate refined saint stage. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. It seems like this nimble chess set is not as simple as an illusory formation. These two people are so powerful, but when their energy touched the void, it seemed to be devoured by the void. It did not affect the surroundings at all. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have been awakened by them. Duan Lingtian's attention quickly shifted to the nimble chess set. 16 intermediate refined saint stage powerhouses. At this moment, a low voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears. Is this even fun? As soon as the game starts, there are already 16 people at the intermediate refined saint stage on the 10 chess pieces. It seems like there's no need for me, an early refined saint stage powerhouse, to join the game. Even if I join the game, I'll only be humiliating myself. Similar discussions rose and fell one after another. At this moment, Duan Lingtian looked around and discovered that, including the chess piece he was standing on, the other 9 chess pieces were also included. There was a total of 20 people who were divided into 10 groups and fighting fiercely. However, among the 20 people who were fighting fiercely, only 4 of them were slightly weaker. However, even these 4 weaker people had already entered the pristine saint stage. As Duan Lingtian extended his divine consciousness, he quickly confirmed that the 4 of them were at the early refined saint stage. This place is completely different from the Mound Hill city that I went to when I first arrived at the Tao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Previously, in Mound Hill City, Saint Rudiment stage powerhouses were already people he had to look up to. However, currently in the Rising Sky Mansions district, the weakest person participating in the Rising Sky ranking battle was at the early refined saint stage. They were all saint stage powerhouses. Once upon a time, saint stage powerhouses were still unreachable to Duan Lingtian. However, at this moment, saint stage powerhouses could be seen everywhere. Naturally, Duan Lingtian also knew that the reason he sighed was because he had climbed all the way up from the bottom. His horizons were broadened step by step. He was unlike some people who had a very high starting point from the beginning. For example, Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was very different from him in this aspect. At the same time, under the watchful eyes of the others, the two people who were fighting on the 10 gigantic chess pieces were defeated one after another. At this moment, ring masters began to emerge one after another, waiting for the remaining people to challenge them. As time passed by, the battles continued to sound, and people continued to be defeated. Naturally, there were also people who were killed before they could even admit defeat, and their bodies were thrown into the wilderness. This was a world where the strong were revered. Unknowingly, evening had arrived. Chapter 1672. Alright, today's Rising Sky ranking battle has come to an end. We'll continue tomorrow. When a ring master appeared on each of the 10 chess pieces, Rin Zhong said, "Tomorrow, the 10 of you will be the ring masters and wait for other people to challenge you. Disperse." As soon as Rin Zhong finished speaking, the walking stick in his hand shook again. At the same time, Lu Hongguang, who was standing next to him, took out his gigantic hammer and smashed it in the air. Bang! Bang! Another 2 loud bangs resonated in the air. Before Duan Lingtian and the others could react, they discovered everything before their eyes had changed. The 10 gigantic chess pieces and the nimble chess set had disappeared. They were back in the nimble canyon again. What a magical illusory formation! Many people who were witnessing the nimble chess set for the first time could not help but exclaim. Among the 10 ring masters today, there are 3 at the peak of the pristine saint stage and 7 at the mastery pristine saint stage. Tomorrow, there should be a refined saint stage ring master. It seems like the day after tomorrow at the latest, or the day after that, the people who will be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking will be decided. Many people were paying attention to this. That Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, hasn't arrived yet. Some people noticed that Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, had not arrived yet. If he doesn't dare to come before the last day, he'll definitely miss the Rising Sky ranking battle this time. It seems like he doesn't care about the Rising Sky ranking at all. That's not necessarily the case. Perhaps he's just putting on airs and waiting for the last day to arrive? That's possible. Unknowingly, many people began to mention Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Some of them were dissatisfied with him. The Rising Sky ranking was undoubtedly a sacred ranking in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. In their opinion, Su Jing's actions were blasphemous to the Rising Sky ranking. If they had the authority, they would definitely disqualify Su Jing from participating in the Rising Sky ranking battle. Su Jing hasn't arrived yet. Hugging the Jasper Immortal Sword, Duan Lingtian quietly found a corner in the Nimble Valley. He leaned against the mountain wall and narrowed his eyes, looking very calm. At this time, Duan Lingtian also saw that the people from the 3 fourth-rate forces had also returned to a corner of the Nimble Valley to rest. The people from the 3 fifth-rate forces in the Rising Sky Mansion's district also went to rest. There are a few people from these 3 fifth-rate forces in the arena today. As for the Rising Sky Mansion, nobody has entered the arena yet. After watching the battle today, Duan Lingtian also realized this point. As for the flowery monk, Jing Suzi, and Zhong Gu, they did not participate in the battle. Otherwise, they would definitely be one of the 10 champions. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian felt a gaze fall on him. At first, he thought it was the flowery monk's gaze. After all, the flowery monk had taken the initiative to talk to him before, although he didn't talk to him after that. However, when he turned to look at the source of the gaze, he discovered that it was not the flowery monk. Instead, it was Jing Suzi. What's he trying to do? Duan Lingtian was puzzled. He did not think there was anything attractive about him. If there was anything attractive about him, it would be that he was more of a loner. Among the people present in the Nimble Valley, apart from Zhong Gu, he was the only one who came and went alone. The others were at least in groups of 3 to 5. It was precisely because of this that he and Zhong Gu were like cranes in a flock of chickens. Looks like he's only looking at me because I'm alone. Duan Lingtian thought to himself when he noticed Jing Suzi had quickly shifted his gaze away. After a while, Duan Lingtian noticed that Zhonggu's gaze had also shifted to him. Due to his previous experience, he was much calmer this time. Zhonggu's gaze did not stay on him for long. Perhaps, the flowery monk took the initiative to talk to me earlier because I was alone. At that time, Zhonggu hadn't come yet, so I was the only one who came and went alone among the group of people in the Nimble Valley. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. However, Duan Lingtian did not know that he had guessed the first part correctly and the second part incorrectly. To a certain extent, the flowery monk took the initiative to talk to him because of his intuition. Naturally, the flowery monk also felt that his intuition was wrong in the end, so he did not bother with him anymore. In the flowery monk's opinion, he was just a sectless cultivator who wanted to be in the limelight in the Rising Sky ranking battle. He wanted to make a name for himself through the Rising Sky ranking battle. A night was extremely short for the people present on the scene. As the sun began to rise, everyone opened their eyes. When the sun shrouded the land, the two hosts from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang, joined forces to start the Nimble chess game again. The group of people present on the scene also entered the Nimble chess game without any warning. 10 huge chess pieces, 5 black and 5 white, were still suspended in the air. Duan Lingtian randomly picked a white chess piece and stood on it. He stood at the edge and quietly hugged the Jasper celestial sword as he stared at the vast field in the middle of the chess piece. Soon after, the 10 ring masters who were born yesterday appeared one after another. Following that, people went up to challenge them one by one. They were either defeated, won, killed, or killed. All in all, the scene was extremely grand and bloody. Soon after, the 10 ring masters changed a few times. In the end, it became 10 powerhouses who were at the peak of the pristine saint stage. At this moment, there was an awkward silence for a while. "I'll do it." A young man with a sturdy body walked out from the group of people from the Rising Sky Mansion. He had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Every step he took caused a gust of wind to blow. It was as though he was a gorilla that walked out of the forest. In front of this gorilla, the ringmaster who was challenged by him seemed extremely weak. The people from the Rising Sky Mansion are going up. I know him. He's the grandson of the second elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. His name is Su Gang, and he's a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine saint stage. It's said that ever since Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, had broken through to the refined saint stage, he's widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Rising Sky Mansion. Now that you mention it, I remember hearing about him as well. When Su Gang made his appearance, most of the people present on the scene shifted their attention to him. At the same time, many people began to whisper among themselves as they revealed his identity. The grandson of the second elder of the Rising Sky Mansion? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow as he looked at Su Gang. He was looking forward to seeing the strength of the grandson of the second elder of the Rising Sky Mansion. Su Gang must be quite strong since he's known as the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Rising Sky Mansion. At the same time, the ring masters on the other 9 chess pieces also appeared one by one. However, nobody continued to challenge them. Chapter 1673. As the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Gang's strength did not disappoint the crowd. Faced with an opponent who was also at the peak of the pristine saint stage, he only used 3 moves to kill his opponent before his opponent could even recognize him and became the new ring master. How powerful! When Su Gang killed his opponent, there was a burst of exclamations in the surroundings. In the past, although some of them had heard of Su Gang, he was not eye-catching because of Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. It was only when Su Jing had broken through to the refined saint stage that Su Gang's reputation began to spread. However, although his reputation had spread, it was just hearsay after all. Su Gang's attack today could be considered as helping him gain fame. Elder Su Tsun, it seems like other than the young mansion master, there are quite a few outstanding geniuses in your Rising Sky Mansion. Ren Zhong smiled as he looked at Su Zhen, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion. When Su Zhen saw Su Gang easily killing his opponent, a smile had already appeared on his face. When he heard Ren Zhong's words, he nodded. Although the most outstanding person in our Rising Sky Mansion is young Mansion Master Su Jing, there are still many outstanding geniuses below him. Su Gang is just one of them. Based on his words, there was a hidden meaning. Apart from Su Jing and Su Gang, there were many other geniuses in the Rising Sky Mansion. I've heard about this before. I heard Elder Su Zhen's grandson is also an outstanding genius. Among the middle-aged people in the Rising Sky Mansion, his reputation is only second to Su Jing. He should be here this time, right? Lu Hongguang asked as he looked at Su Zhen. Su Zhen laughed before he turned to look at the group of people from the Rising Sky Mansion. His gaze landed on a black-robed young man with a cold expression. No one knew what Su Zhen said through voice transmission, but the black-robed young man with a cold expression appeared next to Su Zhen in just a blink of an eye. Vice Mansion Master Ren, Elder Lu, this is my good-for-nothing grandson, Su Ken. Su Zhen introduced. Although he said that Su Ken was a disappointment, it could be seen from his expression that he was very satisfied with this grandson of his. Although Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang came with Su Zhen, they did not have much interaction with each other since they only came to the Nimble Valley after meeting each other, let alone the group of Rising Sky Mansion's elders and disciples behind Su. Greetings, seniors. Su Ken nodded at Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang as a greeting. Please don't mind him. My grandson is a loner. Even when he meets the Lord Mansion Master of our Rising Sky Mansion, he's still like this. Even though Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang did not express their displeasure, Su Zhen still explained. In his eyes, Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang were both existences that could not be offended. It doesn't matter. This is my true nature. Ren Zhong expressed his understanding. Not bad. Lu Hongguang nodded in agreement. Of course, the conversation between the higher-ups of the three fourth-rate forces was also heard by the people present. For a time, the gazes that were originally on Su Gang shifted to the black-clad young man by Su Zhen's side. This black-clad young man was called Su Can, and he was Su Zhen's grandson. He is Su Can? Many people exclaimed softly. Su Can? Who's Su Can? This was the first time many people had heard of Su Can. Their faces and eyes were filled with confusion. It's normal that all of you haven't heard of Su Can compared to Su Gang. Su Can keeps a low profile in the Rising Sky Mansion. However, among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Can's innate talent is definitely higher than Su Gang's. In fact, he's not inferior to Su Jing at all. Someone sighed. He's even 5 years younger than Su Jing. If he's the same age as Su Jing, even if he can't surpass Su Jing, he's definitely not inferior to him. There's such a genius disciple in the Rising Sky Mansion? Many people exclaimed. My goodness! Looks like I'm really ignorant. I've never heard of such a genius in the Rising Sky Mansion before, someone said. It's normal that it's normal. It's normal that you haven't heard of him before. I only found out about his existence 6 months ago. Unlike Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, who keeps a high profile, Su Can keeps a low profile. He usually stays in the Rising Sky Mansion to cultivate. In his world, apart from the martial Dao, there seems to be nothing else. I've heard about this as well. In the past 10 years, Su Can has rarely appeared in front of people. 10 years ago, his innate talent is not inferior to Su Jing's. In these 10 years, Su Jing has been enjoying himself while Su Can has been in closed-door cultivation diligently. Even if Su Can's current strength is not comparable to Su Jing's, it's definitely not too far off. In another few decades, if Su Jing is still as unmotivated as before, he'll definitely be surpassed by Su Can. The people present on the scene discussed animatedly. Those who had heard of Su Can before even gave him a high evaluation. Su Can? At this moment, Duan Lingtian's gaze followed the crowd's gaze and landed on Su Can, speaking of which, Su Can was quite similar to him. Naturally, he was only similar to his cold appearance after the disguise. At first glance, No matter if it was Su Can or Duan Ling Tian, both of them were cold. Their bodies emitted a cold aura that repelled people thousands of miles away. They were like two icebergs. Since Su Can is stronger than Su Gang, and Su Gang is known as the strongest powerhouse below the refined saint stage in the Rising Sky Mansion, Su Can must be at the refined saint stage as well. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Su Gang stood in the middle of a huge black chess piece. When he saw everyone's attention had shifted to Su Can and Su Can had stolen his limelight, a wry smile appeared on his face. However, he was not displeased at all. He knew his own limits when facing Su Can. Su Can was even younger than him. 10 years ago, he was already not a match for Su Can. Now, he was even less of a match for him. Moreover, as far as he knew, Su Can had broken through to the refined saint stage not long after Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, had broken through to the refined saint stage. If Su Gang was asked who he admired the most among his peers in the Rising Sky Mansion, it was undoubtedly Su Can. As for a good-for-nothing rich kid like Su Jing, he had never taken a liking to him. Due to this reason, he did not feel anything when Su Can stole his limelight. Instead, he felt it was normal. He merely smiled wryly for show. After Su Gang killed his opponent and became the ringmaster, the other ringmasters on the other 9 chess pieces began to face powerful opponents one after another. They were either defeated, defeated, or killed by their opponents. All in all, an entire morning had passed, and the ringmasters on the 9 chess pieces were replaced one after another. As time passed by, the number of challengers became fewer and fewer. In the afternoon, it went on for half an hour, but no one went up. Naturally, this did not mean the current 10 ringmasters would be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. This was because up until now, none of the people who went up were at the refined saint stage. The current 10 ringmasters could only represent the peak of the pristine saint stage among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansions district. In the Rising Sky Mansions district, although there were not many people below the age of 50 who were at the refined saint stage or above, there were still quite a number of them. Some of these people came from various forces while some of them were sectless cultivators in the Rising Sky Mansions district. In comparison, there were more of the latter. Naturally, in comparison, the latter was not as famous. Now, it's time for the refined saint stage powerhouses to go up. Many people whispered among themselves as they watched the battle with anticipation in their eyes. Duan Lingtan hugged the jasper celestial sword as he stood quietly at the corner of the white chess piece. Until now, he had no intention of making a move at all. The reason he did not make a move was not only because he felt there was no need to make a move for the time being, but he also felt it would be bullying if he made a move now. Although he was only at the intermediate pristine saint stage, the uniqueness of the Sun True Origin allowed his true origin to be on par with a refined saint stage martial or Dao cultivator. In fact, it was even stronger than an early refined saint stage martial or Dao cultivator. Coupled with his other trump cards, it would be considered bullying if he made a move now. Moreover, his purpose of coming here was to kill Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. He only planned to make a move after Su Jing made a move. He only needed to kill Su Jing in one move and he would have achieved his purpose. Su Gang, I'll deal with you. As a loud voice resonated in the air, a person flew out from the group of people from the 5th-rate force, Pure Yang Shrine. It was a young man dressed in a Taoist robe. There was a hint of gloominess between his brows. His eyes gleamed coldly, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. This person seems like Viper. Soon after, someone could not help but whisper. Although he had lowered his voice, the people present on the scene had good hearing so they heard his words clearly. For a moment, more and more people joined in the whispering. The moment this Pure Yang Shrine's disciple makes a move, he gives off an eerie feeling. Although he's alone, I can sense Viper's aura on him. Usually, people with such an aura aren't good people. This person is very dangerous. Moreover, he must be at the refined saint stage. Refined saint stage, less than 50 years old, and he's from the Pure Yang Shrine. In the Pure Yang Shrine, apart from Jing Suzi, there seem to be 2 other people who meet this condition. They're Yu Suzi and In Suzi. Jing Suzi is the strongest powerhouse among the middle-aged generation in the pure Yang Shrine. Although Yu Suzi and In Suzi's innate talent and strength are not bad, they're inferior to Jing Suzi. However, there's not much of a difference between them. This person should be either Yu Shuzi or In Shuzi. I just don't know who he is. Although I've never seen Yu Suzi and In Suzi before, I think he must be In Suzi. The name In Suzi suits his disposition more. Chapter 1674. It said that In Suzi is a Dao cultivator who cultivates the devil Dao. He belongs to the category of devil cultivators. Soon after, someone revealed another piece of shocking news. Devil cultivator. Everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at the pure Yang Shrine's disciple who had just made his appearance. There were many devil cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, there were not many Dao cultivators among the devil cultivators. Dao cultivators were usually people who were filled with righteous energy. They usually claimed to be righteous, so it was rare for devil cultivators to appear among Dao cultivators. However, it was rare. The Dao Martial Saint Land was so big. Although it was rare for someone to be both a Dao cultivator and a devil cultivator, it was not impossible. However, in the Rising Sky Mansions district, especially among the middle-aged generation, In Suzi from the Pure Yang Shrine was the only one who was a Dao cultivator and a devil cultivator at the same time. "You're In Suzi?" A hint of dread flashed in Su Gang's eyes when he saw the young Taoist priest who walked out from the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine. "That's right, I'm In Suzi." The young Taoist priest stood not far away from Su Gang, facing him as he spoke in an indifferent tone. Seeing that the young Taoist priest admitted that he was In Shuzi, there was an uproar again. Everyone, including the 9 ringmasters who were standing in the middle of the other 9 chess pieces, looked at him one after another. "He's really In Suzi." He's the only Dao cultivator among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansions district who cultivates the devil Dao. It said that Dao cultivators who cultivate the devil Dao are even more terrifying than martial cultivators who cultivate the devil Dao. Most of the people present on the scene stared at In Suzi intently. They were eager to see how In Suzi would make his move. A Dao cultivator who cultivates the devil Dao? That's interesting. Duan Lingtian's interest was piqued as he looked at In Suzi. It had not been a day or two since he came to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, he knew it was good to be a Dao cultivator who cultivated the devil Dao in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Moreover, In Suzi was the first Dao cultivator he had ever seen who cultivated the devil Dao. Although he had seen many devil cultivators in the past, all of them were martial cultivators. None of them were Dao cultivators. "You're a Rising Sky Mansions disciple, so I won't kill you. However, if you don't want to be hurt, it's best if you admit defeat, In Suzi." In Suzi said as he glanced at Su Gang indifferently. His tone was filled with disdain. As a devil cultivator, In Suzi would usually not show mercy unless he was attacking someone from the same sect, especially in a situation like this. However, since Su Gang was from the 4th-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion, he had no choice but to show mercy even if he did not want to, unless he was not afraid of dragging the Pure Yang Shrine into this. Perhaps, the Rising Sky Mansion would not openly do anything to him due to the Rising Sky Ranking Battle's rule of life and death. However, after the Rising Sky Ranking Battle, the Rising Sky Mansion would definitely cause trouble for the Pure Yang Shrine. As a 5th-rate force, the Pure Yang Shrine was completely powerless in front of a 4th-rate force like the Rising Sky Mansion. There is no such thing as surrender in my dictionary. Hearing In Suzi's words, Su Gang was naturally able to detect the disdain in In Suzi's words. A pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator actually dared to shout in front of him. This also triggered In Suzi's ruthlessness as a devil cultivator. His eyes flashed coldly as his eyes turned red. "In Suzi, be careful and show mercy." At this moment, Jing Suzi reminded In Suzi through voice transmission. At the same time, the other people from the Pure Yang Shrine also reminded him through voice transmission. They knew In Suzi's temper very well. Once he became ruthless, he would not care about anything else. At that time, let alone the fact that Su Gang was from a fourth-rate force, even a quasi-third-rate force might have already been thrown to the back of his mind. However, after the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine reminded him through voice transmission, In Su-zi regained his senses. The redness in his eyes faded a lot, but his gaze still gleamed coldly when he looked at Su Gang. You should feel lucky. If you're not a disciple of the Rising Sky Mansion, you'll definitely be a corpse soon. From In Shuzi's words, he was implying that it would be extremely easy for him to kill Su Gang. Let's see if you're capable of killing me. Su Gang sneered. Although Su Gang was only a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine Saint stage, his strength was comparable to an ordinary early refined Saint stage martial or Dao cultivator in the Rising Sky Mansion. Although it would be difficult for him to defeat his opponent, he would not be defeated for a long time. Due to this reason, when In Su-zi entered the arena, although he knew he would most likely be defeated, he had no intention of retreating or admitting defeat. He was a disciple of the Rising Sky Mansion. Even if he was going to be defeated, he would be defeated fair and square. He would fight with all his might until the end so that he would not tarnish the Rising Sky Mansion's reputation. I'll let you know soon enough. In Su-zi laughed eerily. His laughter sent chills down one's spine. Bush, bush, bush. As soon as In Su-zi's words left his mouth, a gust of chilly wind started to blow within a 100-meter radius around him. Within the chilly wind, one could even hear the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves, causing one's hair to stand on end. Subsequently, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, some skeletons could be vaguely seen in the territory that In Su-zi consolidated. Black snakes with glowing green eyes could be seen crawling out of the skeletons. They looked extremely disgusting, causing fear to rise from the bottom of the hearts of many people present on the scene. Not only that, but there were also wisps of black mist surrounding the bodies of these snakes, emitting a terrifying aura. If it was any other time, they would not feel anything when they saw such a scene. However, under the influence of In Su-zi's territory, fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. Naturally, these people who felt fear from the bottom of their hearts were those with weaker cultivation bases. You have a territory and so do I. When Su Gang saw that In Su-zi had formed a domain with his true origin, he did not show any signs of weakness. In an instant, his true origin surged out from his body and the space within a 100-meter radius started to tremble. His domain started to appear. However, before his territory was fully consolidated, In Su-zi laughed eerily. You're just a pristine Saint stage martial cultivator, and yet, you're thinking of consolidating your territory in front of me? How naive! As In Su-zi shouted, the territory that was formed within a 100-meter radius of him began to tremble. Following that, the snakes with glowing green eyes that originated from the skeletons charged out like a storm. They landed on Su Gang's territory that was about to take shape, shattering it before it could even form. As Su Gang's territory shattered, In Su-zi raised his hand and shook it. In an instant, the sleeves of his Taoist robe fluttered as if there was a gust of wind. As they spun, they whizzed out, forming a small tornado that was clearly visible, heading straight for Su Gang's face. The small tornado was surrounded by wisps of black mist. This black fog was the same as the black fog surrounding the snakes. It was the symbol of a demonic cultivator. Boom! A thunderous explosion resonated in the air. Before Su Gang could even react, a gust of energy that made him feel despair had already struck him and sent him flying. Barf! Su Gang, who was sent flying, threw up a mouthful of blood. His body was on the verge of collapsing as he struggled to stand in the air. However, based on his condition, it was obvious he could not continue to fight. I've lost. Su Gang took a deep breath before he regained his senses. When he looked at In Su-zi, a hint of dread could be seen in his eyes. At this moment, he realized the strength of the early refined Saint stage martial and Dao cultivators in the Cleansing Void Mansion was no match for In Su-zi at all. He could still deal with the former, but he could not deal with the latter at all. The moment In Su-zi made his move, he was easily defeated. He won so quickly? The scene in front of them made the onlookers dumbfounded. Although they did not think there was any suspense in this battle since it was a battle between a refined saint stage and a pristine saint stage, they did not expect the battle to end so quickly. However, it did not cross their minds that the battle would end so quickly. No matter what, Su Gang was the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Rising Sky Mansion. Even if he was not a match for an ordinary early refined saint stage martial cultivator, he would still be able to hold on for a while. Chapter 1675. Pure Yang Shrine's In Su-zi entered the ring and heavily injured and defeated Su Gang, the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple, in just one move. Su Gang was different from an ordinary pristine saint stage martial cultivator. In the Rising Sky Mansion's district, he was widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the refined saint stage. In the Rising Sky Mansion's district, even those famous martial and Dao cultivators at the peak of the pristine saint stage did not dare to say they could defeat Su Gang. However, such a person was defeated in just a blink of an eye by In Su-zi, who seemed to be at the early refined saint stage. At this moment, the other 9 ring masters had a grave expression on their faces. Their eyes were filled with helplessness at the same time. They knew very well that among the participants of the Rising Sky ranking battle this time, there were no less than 20 people at the refined saint stage who were below the age of 50 who were participating in it. Apart from the outstanding disciples from the Rising Sky Mansion and the other 3 fifth-rate forces, there were also many genius sectless cultivators from everywhere. These sectless cultivators did not care about fame and fortune since it was just a fleeting moment. They would soon forget about it. However, the Rising Sky ranking battle was different. Once one was listed in the Rising Sky ranking battle, one was destined to be famous for eternity in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only a handful of people whose cultivation base had broken through the shackles of lifespan and lived as long as heaven and earth. Although most of them were able to live longer, they would eventually turn into a pile of dirt. Due to this reason, most of the people in the Dao Martial Saint Land hoped to leave something behind in this world before they died. In that case, they would not have lived in vain. Due to this reason, in the Rising Sky ranking battle that was held once every 50 years in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, there would always be many genius sectless cultivators who had never been heard of before. Naturally, although these sectless cultivators were outstanding, they were still slightly weaker compared to those from the major forces. Perhaps, their innate talent was not inferior to the former, but the resources they enjoyed could not be compared to the former. Due to this reason, it was normal for them to be inferior to the former. In Su-zi is so strong. Everyone's eyes landed on In Su-zi in unison. Shock could be seen on their faces. In the past, although they knew there were 3 great prodigies in Pure Yang Shrine, Jing Su-zi's existence had completely overshadowed the other 2 prodigies. Therefore, not many people paid attention to the other 2 prodigies. At that moment, one of the 2 individuals, In Su-zi, had proven his strength to the crowd. Although I've long heard of the 3 prodigies of Pure Yang in the past, I thought that the other 2 had only benefited from Jing Su-zi. Now, it seems like Jing Su-zi aside, they're worthy of the title as well. Someone could not help but sigh. His words also received the approval of many people. Among the Pure Yang 3 prodigies, apart from Jing Su-zi and In Su-zi, there's also Yu Su-zi. There's no doubt about Jing Su-zi's strength. In Su-zi had also displayed his strength just now. To be able to stand on the same level as them, Yu Su-zi's strength is definitely not weak. More and more people said this. Instantly, many people's gazes fell on the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine. When a few people's gazes landed on one of the young Taoist priests, the rest of them also shifted their gazes to him. He's Yu Su-zi? At this moment, Duan Lingtian was also looking at Yu Su-zi. Yu Su-zi was a Taoist priest with a medium build and an ordinary appearance. He was not eye-catching at all when he stood among the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine. If one did not know him, perhaps one would think he was a young Taoist priest who had followed the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine to join in the fun. It would not cross one's mind that he was one of the 3 prodigies of Pure Yang Shrine. This Yu Su-zi is not simple as well. Although Duan Lingtian had his own way of judging people, all he could see from Yu Suzi was an introvert. It was precisely because of this that he felt Yu Suzi was unfathomable. Very good. At this moment, Ren Zhong spoke up, even I've long heard of the three prodigies of pure yang. Now that I've seen it for myself, it's indeed true. Currently, there's already a refined saint stage powerhouse among the 10 great ring masters. This also means that the Rising Sky ranking battle has entered its climax and is nearing its end. I'm looking forward to everyone's performance. It was obvious Ren Zhong's words were directed at the group of refined saint stage powerhouses who had yet to make their moves in the Rising Sky ranking battle. Perhaps Ren Zhong's words were effective, or perhaps they were influenced by Yin Suzi's strength. Another person stepped out and arrived in front of one of the ring masters at the peak of the pristine saint stage in just a blink of an eye. Just as he steadied himself, a vast amount of true yuan gushed out from his body. The aura of the true origin spread out, causing the expression of the ring master at the peak of the pristine saint stage to change. Refined saint stage powerhouse. The biggest difference between a refined saint stage powerhouse and a pristine saint stage powerhouse was the true origin. The true origin of both of them was not on the same level at all. The aura of the true origin of both stages was different as well. Due to this reason, the ring master at the peak of the pristine saint stage could tell the person who challenged him was a refined saint stage powerhouse just by sensing the true origin's aura. Who's he? I've never seen him before. He should be a sectless cultivator. It's said that the Rising Sky ranking battle can produce a group of outstanding sectless cultivators. Looks like it's true. Refined saint stage. There's no suspense in this battle. The spectators shifted their gaze to the refined saint stage sectless cultivator. They felt there was no suspense in this battle at all. As it turned out, their judgment was right. Although the ring master at the peak of the pristine saint stage was quite strong, he was still slightly weaker compared to Su Gang. He was defeated in just one blow by an early refined saint stage sectless cultivator. It was fortunate the other party had shown mercy. Otherwise, he would have died. Although the Rising Sky ranking battle did not care about life and death, under the circumstances where there was a huge difference in strength, unless there was some enmity between them or the powerhouse was naturally ruthless, the stronger party would usually not kill the weaker party. Thank you for showing mercy. The former ringmaster at the peak of the pristine saint stage who was lucky enough to survive expressed his gratitude to the current ringmaster who was also an early refined saint stage sectless cultivator. The latter nodded nonchalantly. The former was not angry at all. With the other party's strength, he could have completely ignored him. He had already shown him enough respect by responding to him. Subsequently, another 8 refined saint stage martial and Dao cultivators entered the ring and occupied the remaining 8 ring masters. At this moment, the 10 ring masters were all refined saint stage martial and Dao cultivators. Naturally, they were all early refined saint stage martial and Dao cultivators. Among the 10 ring masters, there were outstanding disciples from fifth-rate forces like Yin Suzi. However, there were also many sectless cultivators. Half of the 10 early refined saint stage ring masters are sectless cultivators. I can't believe there are so many outstanding sectless cultivators hidden in our Rising Sky Mansions district. If they were nurtured by a powerful force, their current achievements would have been even greater. Many people sighed emotionally. Humph. It's easy for you to say. Do you think everyone is willing to be a sectless cultivator? It's good to be a powerful force, but if you don't have a suitable backer, you won't be able to obtain anything. Which powerful force isn't controlled by those high-ranking officials? Some sectless cultivators said disdainfully. The words of these sectless cultivators made many of them fall silent. That was right. Although one could join a force like the Rising Sky Mansion, Pure Yang Shrine, and Brahma Temple as long as one had sufficient innate talent, one would still need a backer to obtain resources. Otherwise, one would be neglected or sacrificed in the open and covert fights. Otherwise, why would there be so many sectless cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land? Naturally, it was undeniable that some people became sectless cultivators because they wanted to be independent. However, there were more people who chose to become sectless cultivators because they were afraid of the deceit in the powerful forces. I can't believe there are so many refined saint stage powerhouses below the age of 50 in the Rising Sky Mansions district. Duan Lingtian stood at the side with the Jasper celestial sword in his arms as he sighed emotionally. Huh! At this moment, Duan Lingtian noticed another gaze on him. This time, the owner of the gaze was none other than the flowery monk from Brahma Temple. However, although Duan Lingtian noticed his gaze, he did not look at him at all. From the beginning until the end, he's actually so calm. Don't tell me he's really a powerful sectless cultivator? Or perhaps he's just here to join in the fun, and the reason he's so calm is because he's deliberately mystifying himself? The flowery monk thought to himself as he stared at Duan Lingtian intently. Initially, when he saw Duan Lingtian came alone, and he could not see through Duan Lingtian, he instinctively felt Duan Lingtian was not as simple as he seemed. However, he felt he was overthinking things. However, earlier, Duan Lingtian's calmness in the face of the 10 refined saint stage powerhouses crushing the 10 ringmasters one after another made him realize Duan Lingtian might really not be as simple as he seemed. Naturally, he could also be deliberately mystifying himself. All in all, he felt he could not see through Duan Lingtian anymore. The 10 refined saint stage sectless cultivators were the ringmasters. Each of them stood in the middle of a huge chess piece. They were high-spirited like undefeatable gods of war as they looked around arrogantly. Swoosh! All of a sudden, the sound of wind whistling reverberated in the air. It was none other than a person who swiftly flew out from the group of people from Brahma Temple. It was a young monk with a face full of stubble. He had a pair of tiger-like eyebrows that gave off an awe-inspiring aura. His medium build gave off a valiant feeling. In Brahma Temple, there are only 2 refined saint stage powerhouses below the age of 50. One of them is the well-known flowery monk. Don't tell me this is the wine and meat monk from Brahma Temple, the flowery monk's senior brother? When the young monk with a face full of stubble came out, someone could not help but exclaim softly, "The wine and meat monk." Upon hearing his words, many people's eyes lit up immediately. The wine and meat monk? I've heard of him before. He's the flowery monk's senior brother. Before the flowery monk rose to prominence, he was the most outstanding genius martial cultivator among the middle-aged generation in Brahma Temple. He was only ranked second when the flowery monk appeared. Chapter 1676. Although he's currently ranked second and his strength is lower than the flowery monk, the difference between them shouldn't be too big. This wine meat monk is definitely not simple. Most of the people agreed with this statement. Flowery monk, wine meat monk. This Brahma Temple is quite interesting. This wine meat monk must be a glutton for wine and meat. That's how he got his name. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Duan Lingtian's guess was correct. In the Brahma Temple, the flowery monk did not abstain from sex, and the wine meat monk did not abstain from meat. This was an open secret. The wine meat monk chose an early refined saint stage sectless cultivator as his opponent. Under the circumstances where both of their territories were consolidated, the wine meat monk defeated his opponent in just 3 moves. Intermediate refined saint stage. When the wine and meat monk unleashed his final move, Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang, who were high up in the sky, could not help but be startled. They did not expect that the Brahma Temple would have such a genius martial cultivator other than the famous flowery monk. Based on the true origin that burst out from the wine meat monk's final move, they could tell he was an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator. Due to this reason, they were so shocked. Although they could see the wine meat monk's cultivation base was still unstable, it was apparent he had just broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage not long ago. Even so, they were still shocked. The Brahma Temple, a mere 5th-rate force, actually had such outstanding disciples like the flowery monk and the wine meat monk. In terms of nurturing the younger generation, the Brahma Temple was not inferior to the 2 great 4th-rate forces behind them. This made them feel pressured. This was because the rise of a force was usually due to the powerhouses born in that force. Just like their respective forces, they were not 4th-rate forces a long time ago. They had climbed up step by step. Naturally, if there were those who climbed up, there were also those who fell down. There were many forces that were fourth-rate or quasi-third-rate forces many years ago. However, they were only fifth-rate or sixth-rate forces now. All of this was due to the decline of each generation. The decline of each generation was due to the importance of sections. They were reluctant to hand over some of the important cultivation resources to outsiders. This was also one of the reasons there were so many genius sectless cultivators wandering outside. Perhaps, the Brahma Temple was currently inferior to the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion, but what about after a few hundred years? When the Flowery Monk and the Wine and Meat Monk had fully matured, they might be able to lead the Brahma Temple to the next level and become a fourth-rate force. In fact, the Flowery Monk and Monk Jiao weren't the only ones feeling pressure. The person who felt the most pressure was Su Tsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion. Su Tsun looked at Monk Jiao with killing intent. It wasn't obvious, but it was there. Indeed, after seeing Monk Jiao's strength, his heart was filled with killing intent. It was still fine for the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion since they were fourth-rate forces that were on par with the Rising Sky Mansion after all. However, the Rising Sky Mansion was different. The Rising Sky Mansion was the only fourth-rate force in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. If the Brahma Temple rose to power, it would mean the Rising Sky Mansion would be in danger as well. As the saying went, a mountain cannot have two tigers. It would appear that after I return, I should suggest to Lord Mansion Master to dispatch people to kill the Flowery Monk and the Wine Meat Monk of the Brahma Temple. Su Tsun thought to himself. In the history of the Rising Sky Mansion, such things were not rare. Many genius martial cultivators and Dao cultivators who rose to power in the Rising Sky Mansion's district had died an unnatural death because they were not from the Rising Sky Mansion. Up until now, the cause of death was still unknown. Although some people suspected the Rising Sky Mansion was the culprit, nobody had any evidence. Moreover, the Rising Sky Mansion was a fourth-rate force, so they could only let it go in the end. However, Su Tsun did not notice that when the killing intent flashed in his eyes, the abbot of the Brahma Temple was also looking at him. It seems like my previous decision was right. After the Rising Sky ranking battle ends, I'll let the Flowery Monk and the Wine Meat Monk leave the Brahma Temple and the Rising Sky Mansion's district to cultivate. When they return in the future, they'll lead the Brahma Temple to glory and the peak. This was the decision the abbot of the Brahma Temple had made since a long time ago. The reason he did this was to protect the Flowery Monk and the Wine Meat Monk. Secondly, it was for the future of the Brahma Temple. In the history of the Rising Sky Mansion's district, among the genius martial cultivators who died an unnatural death, there were also disciples from the Brahma Temple. The senior brother of the Brahma Temple's abbot had a much higher innate talent than him back then. He was not inferior to the number one genius among the younger generation in the Rising Sky Mansion. The number one genius among the younger generation in the Rising Sky Mansion had already become the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion. He was also widely acknowledged as the strongest powerhouse in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. He believed if his senior brother did not die an unnatural death, his current strength would definitely not be inferior to the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion. Moreover, if his senior brother was still alive, the current Brahma Temple would most likely not be a fifth-rate force anymore. With such a lesson in mind, how could he let the two most outstanding people in the Brahma Temple suffer the same fate? He had long thought of a countermeasure that would render the Rising Sky Mansion helpless. Intermediate Refined Saint Stage. At this moment, the group of onlookers had also learned about the Wine Meat Monk's cultivation base from many powerful sectless cultivators who came to watch the show. All of them were shocked. The Wine Meat Monk has already broken through to the Intermediate Refined Saint Stage? The Wine Meat Monk has already broken through to the Intermediate Refined Saint Stage. Doesn't that mean the Flowery Monk has already broken through to the Mastery Refined Saint Stage? Many people were shocked. The Flowery Monk instantly became the center of attention. Even the Brahma Temple had become the center of attention. Swoosh. At this moment, another ear-piercing sound of wind whistling resonated in the air, causing everyone's attention to shift from the Flowery Monk to him. This person was none other than Pure Yang Shrine's Yu Suzi. Yu Suzi had also entered the arena. Everyone's eyes lit up immediately. Even Duan Lingtian was looking forward to Yu Suzi's performance. One of the 3 prodigies of the Pure Yang Shrine. Indeed, I'm looking forward to it. Among the 3 prodigies of the Pure Yang Shrine, there's no doubt about Jing Suzi's strength. Yin Suzi's strength has also been proven earlier. He's definitely one of the best among early refined saint stage powerhouses. Coupled with the fact that he's a devil cultivator among Dao cultivators, he might even be able to fight an ordinary intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse. Someone said with anticipation, I wonder how strong Yu Suzi is as one of the 3 prodigies of the Pure Yang Shrine. Yu Suzi, who had become the center of attention, picked an early refined saint stage sectless cultivator as his opponent in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Under the watchful eyes of the others, he defeated his opponent with just 1 move. Boom. The strength he displayed also shocked everyone present on the scene. Another intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse. As the hosts, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang's eyes widened in unison. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They were already shocked that the Brahma Temple had 2 genius martial cultivators at the intermediate refined saint stage below the age of 50. However, the Pure Yang Shrine actually had 2 Dao cultivators at the intermediate refined saint stage or above. Apart from that, the Pure Yang Shrine had Yin Suzi as well. Although Yin Suzi's strength was still at the early refined saint stage, the strength he displayed was almost invincible among those at the early refined saint stage. Soon after, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang seemed to have recalled something as they looked at Su Tsun, who was standing nearby in unison. They believed Su Tsun was even more shocked than them. He was the one who did not want to see this happen the most. After all, whether it was the Brahma Temple or the Pure Yang Shrine, both of them were forces in the Rising Sky Mansions district. The Debussy subterranean was only so big. Whether it was the Brahma Temple or the Pure Yang Shrine, if they wanted to become a new 4th-rate force and occupy a vast area, the best choice was to step on the nearest 4th-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion. As for the other 4th-rate forces, they were usually not the best choice. After all, even a powerful dragon could not defeat a local snake. All of them must die. If someone approached Su Tsun, they would see the muscles on his face were trembling. It was obvious he was furious. It was not a good thing for the Rising Sky Mansion that the junior disciples from the Brahma Temple and the Pure Yang Shrine were so outstanding. In the distance, the sect master of the Pure Yang Shrine had also noticed Su Tsun's cold gaze when he looked at Yu Suzi. He snorted inwardly. Rising Sky Mansion, I won't give you the chance to destroy the future of my Pure Yang Shrine. It was apparent the sect master of the Pure Yang Shrine had already come up with a plan to protect the outstanding disciples in his sect. The Brahma Temple and the Pure Yang Shrine. How shocking! Although they're both 5th-rate forces, the Green Wave Han Mansion still has a long way to go compared to them in terms of the quality of their junior disciples. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As far as he knew, Han Xuanai was the most outstanding among the younger generation in the Green Wave Han Mansion. There seemed to be no refined saint stage powerhouses below the age of 50. Naturally, he believed with Xuanai's innate talent, she would definitely be stronger than Yu Suzi and the wine meat monk before the age of 50. In fact, she might even be stronger than Jing Suzi and the flowery monk. As time passed by, refined saint stage powerhouses entered the ring one after another. During this period of time, there were also a few refined saint stage powerhouses who died. All of the refined saint stage powerhouses who died were sectless cultivators without exception. Everyone present on the scene knew the reason for this. It was because sectless cultivators did not have any backing, so they did not have to worry about being retaliated against. Due to the fact that some of the refined saint stage powerhouses who entered the ring at the end were evenly matched, they spent quite some time fighting each other. For this reason, there were still many people who did not enter the ring when night fell. The flowery monk, Jing Suzi, Zhonggu, Su Kan, and Duan Lingtian did not enter the ring. Naturally, nobody noticed Duan Lingtian at all. Almost everyone thought he was just a sectless cultivator who came to watch the show and had no intention of participating in the Rising Sky ranking battle. However, at the end of the day, among the 10 ring masters, 2 of them were Rising Sky Mansion's disciples. They were both early refined Saint Stage martial cultivators. Chapter 1677. It was a silent night. The next day, when the sun was about to rise, everyone in the Nimble Valley opened their eyes. They knew the most crucial moment of the Rising Sky ranking battle had finally arrived. The 10 people who would be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking would be decided today. The 10 people who will be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking will be decided today. If Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, doesn't show up today, he'll be disqualified from being ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. Until now, many people still could not forget about Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Perhaps, Su Jing was not the most outstanding person among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, but he was undoubtedly the one with the highest status among the middle-aged generation. This was because his father was the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, and he was known as the most powerful person in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. Unless he doesn't want to be the next mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he'll definitely show up, someone said. We'll see whether he'll show up or not today. Some people began to look forward to it. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, you must show up. Otherwise, I'll have come for nothing. Duan Lingtian, who was hugging the Jasper Celestial Sword, muttered to himself in a corner. His voice was so soft that nobody could hear him. As Ren Zhong, the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, and Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, made their moves, the majestic nimble chess game appeared before everyone's eyes once again. Similar to the day before yesterday, everyone was placed in the unpredictable illusory formation with 10 huge chess pieces hovering in front of them. Bush, 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 bush. Along with the sound of wind blowing, most of the people landed on the 10 chess pieces and stood at the edge of the chess pieces, leaving an empty space in the middle. At the same time, the 10 ring masters who stood at the end yesterday entered the middle of the 10 chess pieces one after another, waiting for the others to challenge them. To them, today was undoubtedly the most critical day. It would determine whether they would be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking or not. Only those who stood at the end today would be qualified to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. Among the 10 people, 3 of them were the calmest. These 3 people were none other than the wine meat monk, Yu Suzi, and In Suzi. The 2 people in front of them were at the intermediate refined saint stage, so they were destined to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking. Although In Suzi was only at the early refined saint stage, with his strength, it was not difficult for him to be ranked in the Rising Sky ranking today. Among the other 7 people, the 2 early refined Saint Stage martial cultivators from the Rising Sky Mansion had the most solemn and anxious expression. Among the current 10 ring masters, their strength could only be considered as the weakest. If someone were to issue a challenge, they would definitely be chosen first. If there's no accident, we'll be able to determine the 10 names in the Rising Sky ranking today. Tomorrow will be the real Rising Sky ranking battle, and we'll determine the exact ranking based on our strength. Rin Zhong's voice rang out. The rules are clear, so I won't waste any more time. Let's begin. Rin Zhong said indifferently. As soon as Rin Zhong's voice fell, a person flew out like lightning. This person came from behind Su Tsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion. He was dressed in black and had a cold expression on his face. He was none other than Su Tsun's grandson, Su Kan. The moment Su Kan appeared, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. In the Rising Sky Mansion, if there was anyone who could be compared to Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, it would be Su Kan. Moreover, it had been a long time since Su Kan appeared in front of others. Nobody knew how strong he was currently. However, one thing was certain was Su Kan was younger than Su Jing. Moreover, he was already on par with Su Jing many years ago. Due to this reason, even if he was still not on par with Su Jing, he was definitely on par with him. Moreover, It was obvious the two early refined Saint stage martial cultivators from the Rising Sky Mansion were scouting for him. His strength was definitely higher than the two of them. After Sukan appeared, he did not choose the two early refined Saint stage martial cultivators from the Rising Sky Mansion. Instead, he chose an early refined Saint stage sectless cultivator. It was obvious this sectless cultivator was much stronger than the two Rising Sky Mansion's disciples. However, in front of Sukan, he was killed in just one blow. With just a raise of his hand, his true origin surged out and killed his opponent in just one blow. This was Sukan, intermediate refined Saint stage. After witnessing Sukan's strength, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang were slightly taken aback. They could see Sukan's intermediate refined Saint stage cultivation base was different from Yu Su Zi and the Wine Meat Monk. The Wine Meat Monk's intermediate refined Saint stage cultivation base was the most unstable. It was obvious he had just broken through not too long ago. Although Yu Su Zi was slightly better, he was not much better. However, Sukan's intermediate refined Saint stage cultivation base had long stabilized. This meant he had broken through to the intermediate refined Saint stage for a long time. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to control the true origin of an intermediate refined Saint stage powerhouse like it was his own arm. Elder Sutsun, I've heard about your grandson's innate talent, but I didn't expect him to be so outstanding. I'm afraid even the young mansion master of your Rising Sky Mansion can't compare to him, right? Your grandson has really hidden his strength well. Renzhong sighed as he looked at Sutsun with a complicated gaze. That's right. In the past, although I've heard about Elder Sutsun's grandson, rumor has it that he's even stronger than the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion. However, based on what I've seen today, the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion is no match for your grandson in terms of innate talent, Elder Sutsun. Lu Hongguang chimed in. When Sutsun saw Renzhong and Lu Hongguang looking at him with a hint of envy in their eyes, he felt as if he was floating. Everyone liked to hear praises. Moreover, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang were praising his grandson. This made him even happier than praising him. I can't believe Sukan has already broken through to the intermediate refined Saint stage. At the same time, the group of Rising Sky Mansion's elders and disciples behind Sutsun were shocked. They whispered among themselves, revealing that even they did not know Sukan had already become an intermediate refined Saint stage martial cultivator. Based on the true origin Sukan displayed earlier, it seems like he has already broken through to the intermediate refined Saint stage for quite some time now. Some of the Rising Sky Mansion's elders who had sharp eyes added. The group of Rising Sky Mansion's disciples was even more shocked. Then, doesn't this mean Sukan has broken through to the intermediate refined Saint stage earlier than the young mansion master? Although the Rising Sky Mansion's disciples were not certain if their young mansion master had broken through to the intermediate refined Saint stage, they believed in the Rising Sky Mansion behind them. They knew with the help of the Rising Sky Mansion's cultivation resources, it would be difficult for their young mansion master to not have a breakthrough. Even if the young mansion master has broken through, he might not be a match for Sukan. That's right. After all, Sukan has already broken through. Chapter 1678. Based on the words of the people from the Rising Sky Mansion, it was obvious they thought Sukan was stronger than Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. No matter what, the strength Sukan had displayed had shocked everyone present on the scene. The Rising Sky Mansion is the Rising Sky Mansion after all. Sukan's innate talent and strength are even stronger than Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Most importantly, he's still young. In terms of innate talent, even the flowery monk and Jing Suzi might not be a match for him. Soon after, someone could not help but sigh. The Rising Sky Mansion is a fourth-rate force after all. It's normal for them to have such an outstanding young genius. Many people chimed in. Sukan's attack was as though he was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. To a certain extent, he had proven the Rising Sky Mansion's reputation. At this moment, the group of people from the Rising Sky Mansion, including Sutsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, felt elated. Su-tsun, in particular, looked at Su-kan with pride in his eyes. This was his grandson. His biological grandson. He was proud of him. Su-kan was the first to enter the ring. It could be considered as a good start to the Rising Sky ranking battle. After killing the early refined Saint Stage Sectless Cultivator in just one blow, Su-kan stood quietly in the middle of the chess piece and began to meditate with his eyes closed. He completely ignored the gazes from the surroundings as though he did not notice them at all. Up until now, he was the only one among the 10 ringmasters who was meditating with his eyes closed. It was as though he did not care if anyone challenged him. It's rare to see someone so calm. Rin Zhong and Lu Hongguang looked at each other and saw the same thing in each other's eyes. They had seen many geniuses before. However, most of the geniuses they saw were proud and arrogant people who considered everything beneath them. Especially in a situation like this, they were even more arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Su-kan, on the other hand, gave them a different feeling. Su-kan was neither arrogant nor impatient. He ignored the praises from the surroundings. Even when those people said his innate talent and strength were stronger than Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he did not seem to care at all. This Su-kan, what a tenacious heart of martial arts. A hint of surprise could be seen in Duan Lingtian's eyes. He could see a martial Dao heart that was almost flawless in Su-kan. If such a person is given enough time, he'll definitely soar to the top. I'm afraid even the Rising Sky Mansion won't be able to tolerate him. Although Duan Lingtian did not know Su-kan before this, it did not affect his admiration for Su-kan. In Su-kan's body, he saw the purity that a martial artist should have. It was a purity that only had martial arts in his heart and eyes. No matter how the wind blew on the grass, he would remain unmoved, and his heart would only focus on martial arts. Elder Su-tsun, you have a good grandson. Ren Zhong looked at Su-tsun enviously. Vice Mansion Master Ren, I heard that your grandson's innate talent is not bad as well. He's one of the best among the younger generation in the Sky Hurdle Mansion. Su-tsun smiled humbly. Although that is the case, he is far inferior to your grandson. Rin Zhong smiled bitterly. Everyone's attention that was focused on Su-kan gradually shifted away. After staring at a blockhead like Su-kan for a long time, they would start to feel bored. I wonder who's going to fight next. Everyone's eyes began to scan the surroundings. Naturally, most of them were paying attention to 3 people. These 3 people were none other than the flowery monk, Jing Suzi, and Zhonggu. Time continued to pass by quietly. Half an hour had passed just like that, but still, nobody was going to fight. This caused the people present on the scene to feel a little impatient. Why aren't they fighting yet? Finally, just when many people were feeling impatient, someone made a move. An ordinary-looking young man dressed in plain clothes stepped out in the air. He carried a broad saber on his back. The broad saber did not have a scabbard. It was only wrapped in layers of plain cloth, making him seem low-key. However, although this plain-clothed young man kept a low profile, he still became the center of attention when he stepped out. He was destined to be the center of attention when he stepped out at this moment. This plain-clothed young man was none other than Zhonggu. Zhonggu finally decided to fight. Zhonggu! I wonder how he'll pick his opponent. Many people stared at Zhonggu intently. He definitely won't challenge those sectless cultivators. After all, he's a sectless cultivator, and sectless cultivators are very united. Someone said, I think he'll challenge one of the 2 people from the Rising Sky Mansion. As it turned out, the person who said this was right. After Zhonggu appeared, he indeed picked an early refined Saint Stage Martial Cultivator from the Rising Sky Mansion as his opponent. When the early refined Saint Stage Martial Cultivator was chosen by Zhonggu, his face turned pale immediately. Who was Zhonggu? He was someone who could suppress the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion with the same cultivation base. He knew he would be crushed if he encountered the young mansion master who was also at the early refined Saint Stage, let alone Zhonggu. However, even if he was afraid, he knew he had to stand up straight. He was not representing himself, but he was also representing the Rising Sky Mansion. If he admitted defeat hastily, it would be an embarrassment to the Rising Sky Mansion. Moreover, he knew very well that as a disciple of the Rising Sky Mansion, he was not worried Zhonggu would kill him. Perhaps, Zhonggu would kill him because the powerhouses from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion were present. It was not convenient for the Rising Sky Mansion to seek revenge now. However, they would have thousands of excuses to seek revenge from Zhonggu in the future. Due to this reason, he was not worried at all. However, it did not cross his mind that Zhonggu did not intend to spare his life at all. As a sectless cultivator, Zhonggu had a sense of closeness to other sectless cultivators whom he did not know. In his heart, they were the same kind of people. When he saw sectless cultivators dying in the hands of people from various major forces, endless rage rose in his heart. He tried his best to suppress it, but it was extremely difficult. However, when he faced the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple, he could no longer suppress his anger. Zhonggu did not consolidate his territory. He merely raised his hand and formed a saber before slashing it at the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple. His true origin instantly surged and transformed into a gigantic saber ray that shot toward the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple. Based on the true origin that was rolling on the saber ray, one could tell it had already surpassed the early refined saint stage. In other words, Zhonggu was already an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator. Stop! When Sutsun saw Zhonggu's intermediate refined saint stage cultivation base, his expression turned grave immediately. When he saw Zhonggu was trying to kill his Rising Sky Mansion's disciple, he finally could not hold it in any longer and shouted. At the same time, he instinctively wanted to save his disciple. However, before he could make a move, he was stopped by Lu Hongguang. At the same time, the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple did not even have time to react before he was slashed into two by Zhonggu's saber. From the beginning until the end, let alone using his territory, he did not even cast a single move. Crushed. Absolutely crushed. At this moment, the entire place fell silent. After a while, the sound of heavy breathing could be heard from the Rising Sky Mansion's people. The Rising Sky Mansion's people, including Sutsun, had a grave expression on their faces. Although life and death were not allowed in the Rising Sky ranking battle, they were not worried about their own safety at all. This was because they had the Rising Sky Mansion behind them. It was the most powerful force in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, a fourth-rate force. How would ordinary people dare to openly offend the Rising Sky Mansion? However, someone had just killed their Rising Sky Mansion's disciple. This was no different from giving the Rising Sky Mansion a resounding slap to their face. They were instantly enraged, completely enraged. However, although they were enraged, they knew there was nothing they could do. At the very least, they could not do anything in this situation. Even if they wanted to seek revenge, they would have to wait until the Rising Sky ranking battle ended. Great! Soon after, the group of sectless cultivators who were watching by the side also regained their senses. They cheered in unison, feeling proud of Zhonggu. Earlier, when they saw the sectless cultivators being killed one by one, they felt extremely depressed. As sectless cultivators, they did not dare to kill people from major forces. However, the people from major forces treated their lives like weeds. However, now that Zhonggu had made his move and killed the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple, the depression in their hearts was gone. Zhonggu! Zhonggu! Some of the sectless cultivators even called out Zhonggu's name excitedly to express their joy. At this moment, they no longer cared if their actions would offend the Rising Sky Mansion or not. Zhonggu had even killed the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple to avenge the sectless cultivators. If they were still afraid, it would be too unkind of them. When the people from the various forces saw how valiant Zhonggu was, to the point that he even dared to kill the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple, they were all shocked. They only regained their senses when the group of sectless cultivators shouted excitedly. This Zhonggu is quite a man. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhonggu with admiration. He admired this person who dared to stand up for the sectless cultivators who were killed earlier. Currently, Zhonggu's expression was the same as before. There was no change in his emotions at all. It was obvious he did not take the matter of killing the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple to heart. Earlier, Zhonggu killed the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple and this Rising Sky Mansion's disciple without batting an eyelid when they killed the sectless cultivators. Duan Lingtian, who originally planned to wait for Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, to appear, felt the blood in his body boiling due to Zhonggu's influence. Right now, I'm also a sectless cultivator. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he flew out. Immediately, the gazes of many people landed on him. Who's this person? I've never seen him before. He's always standing alone at the side. He's as unsociable as Zhonggu. I think he's also a sectless cultivator. Such an unsociable and cold person must be a sectless cultivator. Currently, Duan Lingtian had changed his appearance completely. His face was cold and aloof. Li Feng? Chapter 1679. To be honest, up until now, the flowery monk still could not see through Li Feng. From the very beginning, his intuition told him that this Li Feng was not simple. However, after a while, he felt he was overthinking. Although there were many sectless cultivators in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, even if their innate talent was on par with or even better than his, without the resources from a major force, how far could they go? Take Zhonggu for example. In terms of innate talent, let alone Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, even the flowery monk and Jing Suzi from Pure Yang Shrine might not be a match for him. This was because Zhonggu did not have the resources from a major force. Not only was he inferior to Jing Suzi and him, but he was also inferior to Su Jing as well. However, based on the strength Zhonggu displayed, he was not certain Zhonggu was inferior to Su Jing. Based on Zhonggu's current strength, it did not seem like he had just broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage. In terms of strength, even his senior brother, the Winemeat Monk and Pure Yang Shrine's Yu Suzi might not be a match for him. However, even then, Zhonggu was still inferior to him and Jing Suzi. He was certain of this. However, based on the aura of this cold-looking young man called Li Feng, he was most likely not even 40 years old yet. Even if a sectless cultivator who was not even 40 years old had some fortuitous encounters and innate talent, how far could he go without the resources from a major force? He's challenging another Rising Sky Mansion's disciple? Don't tell me he wants to learn from Zhonggu and stand up for those sectless cultivators? The flowery monk thought to himself when he saw Duan Lingtian was looking at another early refined saint stage Rising Sky Mansion's disciple. This is an early refined saint stage martial cultivator. Even if he has just broken through, I don't think a young man who's not even 40 years old can handle him, right? Subconsciously, the flowery monk did not think Duan Lingtian was stronger than the opponent he had chosen. However, when he saw the calm expression on Duan Lingtian's cold face, doubt arose in his heart. Is this young man who's not even over 40 years old really confident, or is he just deliberately mystifying? However, the flowery monk did not know that in terms of actual age, Duan Lingtian was already in his early 40s. However, due to the mysteries of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, the time Duan Lingtian spent inside was almost static compared to the time outside. Therefore, in the eyes of others, he was no more than 40 years old. If the flowery monk could notice this, the others would naturally be able to as well. After all, among the people present, there were more than one or two people who were stronger than the flowery monk. This young man is not more than 40 years old? Ren Zhong, the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, immediately regained his senses. His eyes widened as a horrified expression appeared on his face. He's also a loose cultivator? The second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, Lu Hongguang, turned pale with fright as well. When he released his divine consciousness, he discovered that the young man was not even 40 years old. Not more than 40 years old, and he's appearing at this time? Even among the junior disciples in the Raging Wave Mansion, there was no refined saint stage martial or Dao cultivator below the age of 40. However, this young man had appeared and challenged the early refined saint stage martial cultivator from the Rising Sky Mansion. He found it hard to believe. In the WCI's subterranean, apart from the few quasi-third-rate forces, he had never heard of any force that was able to produce a refined Saint Stage Marshal or Dao cultivator below the age of 40. Moreover, even among the 3 quasi-third-rate forces, not all of them were able to produce such a marshal or Dao cultivator. My goodness! He's not even 40 years old. At the same time, the group of people present on the scene had also learned about this. The atmosphere of the scene was instantly stirred up by Duan Lingtian's appearance. The gazes that landed on him were filled with surprise, horror, and shock. However, most of them were filled with doubt. They were doubting whether this young man who was not even 40 years old was really strong or if he was just putting on an act. Perhaps he was just an idiot. No matter what, Duan Lingtian had completely overshadowed Zhonggu's limelight. Humph! A young man who's not even 40 years old actually dares to challenge the early refined Saint Stage disciple from the Rising Sky Mansion? Isn't he seeking death? An old Taoist among the group of people from the Pure Yang Shrine snorted disdainfully. He was an elder from the Pure Yang Shrine. Many people agreed with his words. I think he's just trying to stand up for the sectless cultivators like Zhonggu. However, doesn't he know the price of standing out might cost him his life? The people from the various forces discussed among themselves. All of them felt Duan Lingtian had overestimated his own strength. The group of sectless cultivators present on the scene, on the other hand, felt their faces burning. A young man who was not even 40 years old had stood out so resolutely for their dead sectless cultivator brother. On the other hand, they could only watch from the sidelines. This made them feel ashamed. However, they did not have the courage to fight. Little brother, come back. There's no need to throw your life away. Soon after, a kind-hearted sectless cultivator transmitted his voice to Duan Lingtian. He did not want to see Duan Lingtian lose his life because of this. Brother, those sectless cultivators already know about your kindness. Come back. The Rising Sky Mansion's disciples won't show mercy to you. Soon after, more sectless cultivators transmitted their voices to Duan Lingtian. They knew very well that the Rising Sky Mansion's disciples must have been enraged by Zhonggu's attack earlier. If someone challenged a Rising Sky Mansion's disciple at this moment, they would definitely not show mercy. They might not be able to openly seek revenge from Zhonggu, but they could still kill other sectless cultivators to vent their anger. Just as they had expected, the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple who was chosen by Duan Lingtian looked at Duan Lingtian coldly. His heart was filled with disdain. A sectless cultivator who's not even 40 years old dares to challenge me? In his opinion, this sectless cultivator before him was a hot-headed idiot. However, since he had delivered himself to his doorstep, he, naturally, would not show mercy. Earlier, Zhonggu had stood up for the sectless cultivator and killed the Rising Sky Mansion's people. That person was related to him. He could be considered as his distant cousin. Due to their similar innate talent and strength, they were usually close. Boy, are you sure you want to challenge me? The Rising Sky Mansion's disciple looked at Duan Lingtian provocatively. Upon hearing the voice transmissions from the sectless cultivators, warmth rose in Duan Lingtian's heart. He felt he had made the right choice by standing up for the sectless cultivator, even if it was all because of Zhonggu's influence. In the face of the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple's provocation, Duan Lingtian merely looked at him calmly. However, the determination in his eyes was undoubtedly the best answer. In the middle of another huge chess piece, Zhonggu hovered in the air. His gaze was also trained on Duan Lingtian. He had paid attention to Duan Lingtian before this because he was the only one who came to the Nimble Valley alone apart from him. Moreover, he seemed to be a sectless cultivator just like him. Put everything else aside, just this alone made him feel a sense of familiarity with Duan Lingtian. Now that Duan Lingtian had stood up, it made him feel a sense of camaraderie. If it was possible, he did not mind being friends with this aloof young man who was also a sectless cultivator. If you're not confident, just admit defeat. However, when he realized Duan Lingtian was not even 40 years old, Zhonggu still reminded him through voice transmission. Upon hearing Zhonggu's reminder, Duan Lingtian glanced at him and smiled faintly as a response. In Zhonggu's eyes, the faint smile on his cold face revealed a strong sense of self-confidence. For a moment, Zhonggu felt that he had somewhat seen through this cold-faced young man. Su Ping, kill him. Among the Rising Sky Mansion's people, Grand Elder Su Tsun's eyes gleamed sharply as he ordered Duan Lingtian's opponent. Naturally, he had spoken to his opponent through voice transmission. Su Ping was also Duan Lingtian's opponent. He was a Rising Sky Mansion's disciple with a cultivation base at the early refined saint stage. When he heard Su Tsun's words, the killing intent in his eyes intensified. True origin pulsed on his body, emitting a terrifying aura. It was killing intent. At once, the sectless cultivators present on the scene broke out in cold sweat for Duan Lingtian. You overestimate yourself. Su Ping suddenly shouted coldly as the true origin on his body swept out like a hurricane. In just an instant, the area within a 100-meter radius around him had turned into a sea of wind. The wind continued to grow stronger. After a while, it seemed as though he was in the middle of a storm. His robe fluttered loudly in the wind. In the area within a 100-meter radius around him, wind blades could be seen everywhere. The wind blades whistled as they tore through the air, causing the air to tremble. It was as though they were going to cut open a hideous hole in the air. Although these wind blades were swirling around Su Ping's body, the group of people who were standing far away could vaguely feel the sharpness of these wind blades. Wind blade territory. Such a territory was not rare in the Debussy subterranean. Of course, although it was not rare, it was extremely powerful. Ordinary people who entered it would be minced into minced meat without even having the chance to react. Because Duan Lingtian was standing more than 100 meters away from Su Ping, the wind blade territory did not touch him. The edge of the territory was still more than 10 meters away from him. However, even so, Duan Lingtian's robe was still swept up by the oncoming wind. It fluttered in the wind and fluttered loudly. Die! At the same time, Su Ping roared loudly. His entire body was like a bolt of lightning as he charged straight at Duan Lingtian. Moving along with him was the wind blade territory that was constantly whistling. The wind blades in the territory broke through the air with him, causing the void to constantly emit ear-piercing whistling sounds as if it was really going to tear the void apart. For a moment, the world seemed to be dark and colorless. Many of the sectless cultivators could not bear to watch and closed their eyes. They really did not want to see Duan Lingtian being killed by the wind blades. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.